Hi, Hitesh here, and this is a part which I'm recording at the very end of the video because I have two important things to announce, and then we'll walk through with this tutorial and all of that. Now, really super happy, first of all, this whole tutorial came to the existence because one of my friends, she was selling her ebook onto some platform, and I realized, hey, I can design a quick tutorial or a project where you can learn how to sell your own ebooks by yourself if you are a developer. That was the spark of the idea, but very happy to say that while working with this, I showed it to one of my friend, and now he's using exact same code, source code, and he's modifying it a little bit, and he's able to transform this simple project into a product for his dad. His dad is a wedding photographer, and now using this exact same services like NextAuth, Imagekit, and Razorpay, he is helping his dad to move online, and whatever the wedding photography they shoot, they use the same product and sell it or send it to the client, and their client just bundles up and get these photos into Instagram shareable and posted to be posted on Twitter, whatever all of this they want. And super happy that somebody was able to take this project and turned it into a product, at least for his dad. That's the superpower, and they're using the exact same source code that I'm going to share with you and walk you through this entire project. And of course, they are adding more features on top of it, but that's really a good use case. And he reached me out back and said, hey, Tish, great help with that. We're using that same source code, same mechanism that you walked through. So that's why I'm recording this at the first. Also, if you are thinking that, hey, this is going to be a great tutorial, surely it will be. This is the second part. And you will be able to learn a ton of things with this. But in case you are an absolute beginner in Next.js or you have never coded a full stack project, this will be a little bit challenging for you. This project entire tutorial is designed for the developers who are looking forward that how can I move ahead in life? How can I target the product and can build my own product? This is going to be for them. So if you are an intermediate developer or an advanced developer, you are absolutely going to love this. This is not a line-by-line guide that, hey, write this line, you also write this line. No, this is more of a concept tutorial. Of course, we're writing a ton of tutorial all along with us. But after watching this tutorial, you will never look back into NextAuth. You will never look back into how to integrate Imagekit with any product. You will also not look back at how to integrate Razorpay with any product at all. This is where we focus a lot on the foundational and the concept, and rather than just, hey, follow along with me. Of course, we'll do that. And by the way, all the source code will be available in the description. You can check that directly and add more feature on top of it. That's it. I was just super happy to know this news, and I thought I'll share it first. Now goes to the intro part of the course itself. All right. This is going to be a long video. Hey there, everyone. My name is Hitesh, and welcome to Hitesh Code Lab. In this really long video, we're going to learn how we can build an e-commerce application, and all of your problems, all of your worries about building an e-commerce application is going to go away. After watching this video, you'll be able to completely build an application, and through this application, you'll be able to sell videos, PDFs, ebooks, or the images as well. The project is a Shutterstock clone, not exactly like a Shutterstock. We're not going for the UI implementation, but the functionality part of it. In case you are in India, you might be a big fan of Sandeep Maheshwari. He also runs a Image Bazaar website. We're not cloning that also, but it's similar kind of a concept where you can sell your images in different formats, in different sizes, and you can charge different amount for the different sizes of the images. This will walk you through with a lot of concepts, especially the media storage concept, that how such images are being stored. It's not like that photographer is clicking different sizes of the image. We transform that images on the go, and we sell different variety of the sizes of the image at different prices. We will also walk you through about the different licenses that you can sell. Apart from that, we'll also integrate payment gateway as well. We're going to go through with the Razorpay as the payment gateway. So let me walk you through with the challenges, and then we'll work through that. I'll show you the demo. It's not the fanciest of the demo, but it works, and you will be having absolute amazing time watching this one. So let me share the screen with you. So there are two major components which we are going to work, and don't worry about this text. We'll just change this one. So this one is going to be an e-commerce website. So we have a couple of challenges regarding this e-commerce website. And especially the first challenge, or in fact, two challenge is, since we're building a website for the images, so how and where we are going to store the images, that's the one part. Another part is how we are going to handle the payment gateway. So we're going to talk about both of them one by one. First of all, let's talk about the images, that how the images are going to be handled and how we can work with that. For handling the images, we're going to be using another fantastic product, which is Imagekit. Two big reasons for using them. First of all, they are fantastic, pretty good. I'll show you why they are fantastic. And another thing is they do have a free tier plan, very generous free tier. In fact, some of the decent size production level thing can also be run absolutely fine without paying that. So very generous of them. And another thing that why we are going to be using Imagekit is because of their ability to transform the images on the go. So I'll walk you through. So let's go on to this Imagekit. And by the way, the reason why I'm saying that a lot of people love them is look at this. Swiggy, Nykaa, a lot of big tech giants actually love and use them. So Imagekit is a real-time media processing product that helps to optimize, stream, and transform images and videos for the web. In simple terms, this can be your simple digital asset management platform. You can host all of your images, videos, and everything all up here. And the best part, what I really like about them, let me show you that. You will love this part. You might have seen other things in other products like this, but what you have not seen is the external storage. Look at this. I can just go ahead and add any storage. Look at this. I can even have WordPress as my storage, or you can use your buckets, AWS EC2 buckets. So basically it comes with the integrated storage, and you can bring up your own cloud storage and use that in front of it to deliver the product using their CDNs and their capabilities to transform the products. Now, Imagekit can automatically compress and convert images and videos as well for suitable, whatever the device you're going for. What I really like is via the URL, you can actually change and transform images on the fly. Not only that, it actually has a capability of putting up HLS streaming and Dash. In case you are into video streaming, we all know how hard it is to actually stream Dash content. HLS decently doable. Dash is really where it's a lot of headache. But you can just attach your bucket, EC2 or AWS bucket, and that's it. It will do all the magic. Now, another thing that we're going to be going through, I'll walk you through with the Razorpay part as well. And if I go back onto the get started, what you're going to notice is they do have Next.js. I'll come back onto this one in a second. So what we're going to use in this one as the tech stack is I'll be using React 19. Yep, latest and greatest of React 19. I'll be using React 19 via the latest Next.js so that I can walk you through. There are a lot of nuances on that. I'll still walk you through that how you can build a very stable product. We're not going to be using the use cache and all those fancy stuff, but it will be still a decent size project that will help you to navigate all the nuances about React 19 as well as the Next.js. So for this, we will be using the Next.js, although they offer all popular things that you probably are looking for. I am interested in the Next.js. Reason for that, it gives me everything which I need to build. It has all the instructions and everything. Even demos are available that how you can have Imagekit.io next. This is all what I have to do. We will learn how we can set up all these private keys and public keys and the URLs and everything. We, of course, will do that. And this is the kits that we are going to be using. So this is the most important part for us. I think if we study this section till here, I guess, that's all what we need. So the SDK provides 6 components here. For image rendering, we won't be talking about video resizing in this video. We will definitely talk about the file uploading as well. And then we'll be working on the Imagekit client as well, which exposes images and everything. So now that you have the basic idea that what's the tech stack and everything will be going on. And for the payment gateway, we're going to be using Razorpay, although they are very India centric, but I'm pretty sure you might be watching from India itself. And after this, you will have no issue or no problem in handling the payment gateways. It's not really that of a big deal. You can manage and work with that. So we'll be working with the Razorpay. Again, another reason for using Razorpay is because they're famous and they're relatively easy to work on with that. Documentation is also really nice. But feel free to use Stripe, PayPal, Braintree, anything else that is in your mind. I'll be working with the Razorpay in this one. So what we're going to be building up? That's a good question. So this is the Imagekit shop, and ignore the errors and all of this. We'll fix them as we go. So this is how the website will look like. We will have just this part like this. So we'll have one image. You can view this image, and we'll have the admin option as well. Notice here, this is an admin account. You can go ahead and update that. Click on to the admin. You can just go ahead and add the product name, description, choose the file, have different variation of the image. No, you don't have to re-upload or keep on uploading the image of different size. No, you just upload one image, we'll take care of that. Not we, actually this guys will take care of the transforming of the image. So you can keep on adding the different variations of that. Notice here you can add the variant and just go with that and just create the product. Once you have created the product, that product will be available up here and anybody can click on this view option. Not visible, I'm pretty sure. There we go. Now it's visible. So here it is. No, it's like that. So you can just click on the view option and you see this is the image that I clicked in Iceland. Very beautiful place. Yes, I clicked that. And once we have this, you can just go ahead and buy any of the image. We are using and giving the personal license and commercial, but feel free to modify however you like. Let's just say somebody wants to buy this one. So we have different options to buy. You can click on the buy now button. And as soon as you open up the or click on the buy now button, it opens up the Razorpay test credentials. These are not the original ones. These are test account credential. And you can just go ahead and try them out. So you can just go ahead and I guess 4, 1, yep, B and yes, hopefully that's one. I can probably add any of the date. So let's just say 0226 CVV. I'm not sure. I think 123. And we can continue this. We have to enter the name. I'll love to add my name. And let's just click on continue and maybe later. And it will send the OTP. If I'm correct, I need to enter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are test credentials. So this is a test credential or test OTP for the success. Not sure, but I think, yeah, that's the one. There is a testing mechanism for the failure also. You can test them out as well. I'll click on this. This will submit the OTP and it will just take a few seconds. And yeah, that's all done. And then we are also integrating one more thing, which is emails. Yep, for this we'll be using Mailtrap, which is a really nice service to work on with mail testing. Again, free account. We won't be creating any paid account for that. And user will be able to check that how many accounts are there, how many products are being buying. So we can check the my orders details as well here. Notice here the orders are here. So some failed, some pending, some success and all of that. We will also work on the webhooks so that we can reach out the Razorpay and verify that whether this product is successfully purchased or not. That's a recommendation by Razorpay. And we will also work on that when everything is confirmed, we shoot out an email, of course, via the Mailtrap, not the real email, so that user gets up. So really thoroughly in-depth application, although it looks like, hey, there's just one card, but the concept that we're going to learn is really amazing. It's really unique. You will absolutely love going through with that. And again, the transformation that you will be able to use through the Imagekit, through the Razorpay, Mailtrap, and all of that will be fantastic. Also, we'll be using the NextAuth in this one. We'll be going with the MongoDB Classic. So no extra services will be used. It's a classic project. And this will give you a huge booster and confidence in building any e-commerce application. Ready? Let's get started. I'll catch you up in just a few seconds. I'll grab my tea and let's get started and start building the amazing e-commerce application, and let's sell some images with that. Hey there everyone, and welcome to the section. For me it's a new video, for you it's just a section. So we'll just start with the Next.js and we'll be using latest React 19, we'll be using latest Next.js, we'll be using TypeScript as well. In case you are not too much comfortable about TypeScript, then just remember this, that I will be declaring couple of files and couple of interfaces which additionally gives me types on top of JavaScript. Again, I do have a playlist on my channel, which is one of the most popular TypeScript playlist here. I won't be focusing too much on the TypeScript. I'll be just writing them and consider them as just like another data type that's we are going to be injecting. So what we're going to do in this section is the step one is to connect with the database. So feel free to use local MongoDB or use Atlas. I will be using simply any Atlas instance for this. And once we are getting done with the connection of the database in the Next.js, which is a little tricky because in Next.js, a lot of things runs on the edge. So there might be already a connection available to you. So you don't want to keep on connecting that when you already have an instance of the connection. So take care of that. That's the only thing we'll take care. And after that, we'll be creating a couple of models. I will be focusing on creating the models first. And then I'll just inject the interface part of it so that we don't focus too much on just declaring the type. It's just a boilerplate code that you have to write. Once you see this, you'll be all comfortable with that. So no big deal there. And again, you will be able to follow everything along. No worries there. All right. So let me go ahead and share the screen. All right. So, ooh, why is it a Zoom? All right. So looks good. And yep. So the step one for us is just go on to Next.js website and click on this really nice button. I really like how subtle they have added this. And fire up your VS Code or whatever you're using these days and just paste this command and just write at the end of it dot so that it creates the new project in the same directory. And we will answer a few questions. So the step one is, would you like to use TypeScript? Yes, I would love to use TypeScript in this. In case you're not comfortable, JavaScript is still absolutely fine. And ESLint, all right, give it to me. Tailwind CSS, yes, we'll be needing that. I will not be using source directory for this project, but feel free to use. It doesn't do anything much. Just keep everything inside the source. We will use app router for sure. TurboPack, yes, this TurboPack gives you much faster things in the development. It's really nice. You will actually love it. No, we don't want to customize any import, just say no, and that's it. Now, this is gonna take probably a few minutes. If it would be Bun, it would be much more faster than this. And come on. The best part about this is that in the package.json, we can see that the React and React DOM both are above version 19. So yes, we are 100% sure that we are above the 19 version. One thing that we have to install is Mongoose. Mongoose is an ORM for MongoDB, and we are going to need it for having the connection. In fact, we need to create some of the data types as well. But first, let's face the error before doing anything else. First thing is create a .env, and we'll be creating a new variable in this, MongoDB underscore URI. And we'll be calling it as Hitesh. Copy this, save this, and we'll create one more file, .env.example. This is the one that I'll be committing in the Git so that you can actually take this file as a reference. Now, once all of this, let's close everything. We don't need much. We'll be creating one more folder here that will be lib. So all of our libraries and utilities are there. Some people call it as utils as well. In fact, I am among those people who sometimes call it as lib, sometimes call it as util. Feel free to use. We'll be creating a db.ts, which will help us to create a database connection. Only thing which I recommend you to remember always is there might be already a connection. That's it. You will be able to handle all the edge cases if you keep on remembering there might be already a connection. So first of all, let's go ahead and say that I want to import Mongoose. So let's just say the Mongoose is available here. And I would love to check whether I'm able to load my environment variable or not. So I'll just say process.env. And let's just remove this .uri. Let's just call this one as all capital MongoDB underscore URI. URI, and there we go. And if I am not able to call even this one, then it's a good checking sign here. So I'll say if I don't have MongoDB URI, then let's just go ahead and say throw new error, and let's just say check your database connection string. Now, whenever we work with any MongoDB, the step one always and always is to have or assumption that we have a cached connection. So let's just call this one as cached or cached connection, whatever you like. This one actually comes from Mongoose, and usually this is how we write it. It will give us error, and actually the error is that, hey, we will have a global. Now, global is available to you, global. The browser global is different and the node global is different. And here we will, as soon as we inject a Mongoose here, it has no idea what this is. Why does it exist? Like, it doesn't exist like that. And if I even check this one, it says element implicitly has any type because type of global, this has no index signature. Basically, the error is saying that I am aware of the global. You can do a console log of the global. This is going to give you an empty object. It will look something like this. But it has no availability that, hey, is there any object Mongoose in it? I was not aware of it. Nobody told me about that. In order to tell it about it, you have to create a new file, which is types.d.ts. In case you're using JavaScript, no problem at all. You don't have to tell him extra type. Most of the TypeScript is to help you with the things like this. So I'll just go ahead and say import, and we're going to import connection. Yep, that's from Mongoose. And I will go ahead and use a declare syntax. Again, declare. Again, feel free to check out my TypeScript playlist on the channel. I will say there is a global. I'm writing badly today. Global, there we go. This is going to be an object, and inside this there is going to be a variable mongoose. And inside this mongoose, how do you expect mongoose to be available? Now, whenever you use mongoose, there are two things. Whether there's a connection string in it, means the connection is already there, or the connection, or there is nothing, that means we don't have a connection, or there's a third case as well, that somebody might have attempted the connection. So in that case, you will have a promise already in action. So we'll take care of the two things. So first of all is a connection. This connection is going to be of type connection. Remember, we imported the connection at the very top. Yes, for that exact reason. It will be of type of connection, or it could be null. There might be no connection. And apart from this, we might have a promise as well. This promise is going to be, of course, a type of promise of type connection. There we go. Or could be nothing. So just go ahead and give it a null. Now, the moment you give this, you have to export this as well. We're going to export it like this. Yeah, that's a very weird syntax. So once we have this, what it does, if I go back, now it is aware of this mongoose that, okay, I know that there is something known as mongoose in my global. And global is a context. It's available to whole of your application at once. All right, already too much. Okay, so let's just check if we don't have any cached, then that means there is no connection. So in that case, we will explicitly make our cached as like this. So I'll just say cached will be global dot connection, global dot not connection, mongoose, my bad, mongoose. And inside this, we have the two things which we have to make it empty. So first of all, we'll take the connection, which we are going to declare it as null. Another thing is promise, which we are going to declare it as null. So everything empties out. All right. So why do you have an issue? Why you should be there? Oh, there's a single n. Let's use 2n. Anyways, save this. And these smaller things, that's why people love to use TypeScript, because these smaller mistakes like typos and all of that, because this was declared here, so it is taking all the reference from here. That's why you avoid such things in the production. So that's why everybody loves that. All right, if we don't have the cache, that's the case. If we want to connect now, let's go ahead and create a method for that. So let's just go ahead and use async arrow function. Nah, we'll use the regular function. So we'll say export async and call this one as simply connect to database. I think that's too long of a name. We don't need any parameter in this one because we have access to everything. First of all, we're going to check whether we do have access to connection. If we have connection, we don't have to do anything. So if we check this cached, and we check the connection, if you have the connection, then that's great. Let's return that connection in itself. So return cached dot connection. That's it. All job done. So this is the case when we have the connection. I told you, remember, another case, somebody might have initiated a connection. That could be the case. So promise is on the go. So we'll check for that. If there is no cached dot promise, if that is the case, if we don't have any promise ongoing, then we'll just go work with that. If a promise is already going on, then we don't have to do much in that case. So first of all, let's create a couple of options. Yes, these options are totally optional to create. This is determined by what plan of MongoDB Atlas you have bought or wherever you have deployed this one. This is majorly how many buffer connection or connection pool size. Multiple connection at once are allowed in the databases. So we'll just go ahead and say buffer commands, and we're going to go ahead and say true. And again, these are boilerplate options. I use them all the time. And that next one is max pool, no suggestion, max pool size. Again, this max pool size, I'm putting a number 10 here, but you have to check. 10 is usually allowed. You have to check whether your Atlas actually allows that. Some of the Atlas plans allows really big ones. So if that is the case, this part is all good. We have this one. Now we have this cached dot promise. So in that, we're going to go ahead and say, hey, mongoose, let's just go ahead and connect. And in the connection, we have to provide the MongoDB URL or URI. And that's it. Why are you having the issue? Shouldn't be having. We should be providing options as well. Now let's just check why this one is having issue. So this one says, import mongoose is not assignable type connection. Why are you having an issue? All right, small thing. I just needed to add this exclamation just to make sure that yes, the URL will come 100% sure. All right, so this actually resolved this issue. This part is okay. We are having a MongoDB. And again, look at the errors. Errors are always good. Look at this. This one says, hey, there's a promise mismatch type. You cannot actually assign this. And this is because we saved it pretty early. And once we have this dot then, oops, suggestions, bad suggestions, dot then, there we go. It's gone. So TypeScript sometimes is pain, but it actually gives us. So what we are saying in this piece of code is if we have cached connection, go ahead, give the connection. If we don't have a promise in action, so let's make one. Let's take a promise, take a connection promise. So we initiated a promise with some options, and then we are initiating a promise here, and then we are providing a dot then. And in the dot then, we have all these options. So let's just go ahead and say it like this. And we're going to use mongoose and dot connection. There we go. So the promise is being fulfilled and all of that. Now, once we are here, then let's go ahead and try this. Use a try catch, and we'll just say cached dot connection, and that connection will be await, and we'll say cached dot promise. That's it. Once we have this promise available to us, we have the cached connection available to us. If we are handling any kind of error, then in that case also let's refresh this cached dot promise, and that will be null. All right, a lot of stuff. Now, one thing don't forget is to return. Otherwise, what's the point of having this file? We are going to say cached dot connection. All right, once you have seen this file happening, there's nothing much happening in this file, although it took us some time to write this. But always in the Next.js, expect there is a connection or there is an attempt to make the connection. So we checked it in the global cached, and then we check if we don't have the cache, that's okay. Connection is empty, promise is empty. If the connection is there, return that connection. If there is no promise on the go or on the way, that means, hey, we don't have to do anything. Just make the options and make that promise if we don't have that promise. If you have the promise, don't do anything. That means, hey, just come back here since you already have a promise running that might be resolved, and then just use an await here so that once that resolved, you get the connection to the cache and return that. That is all what we did. So this is all about having a database connection being set up. Yes, I know a little bit, but it's okay. Now in the next step or the next segment, let's go ahead and create all the models that we require. Again, I will be walking you through with the basic core concepts, not the TypeScript part. TypeScript part, we'll just grab it. Let's move into the next section. All right, so the next part is designing what we'll be storing in our database. This is always a crucial thing, and the more you're going to design, the better you will be designing the database models. So we will be quickly designing three things: the user that we want to store in our database. We will also store the products, whatever the products we have, and we'll be storing the orders as well. I will be creating just the foundation part of it, and the interface part of it, that is the TypeScript part of it, I will just dump them down in front of you. You can also use LLMs, ChatGPT or anything, once you know the basics that this is what I want to store. Now generate the types for it so that I have the type safety and TypeScript for it. This is always a much easier approach, so we're going to be probably using that. So let's create these files, and we'll be pushing them into a separate folder itself. And let's close all of this. We don't need it. And let's keep them inside a models folder. Models. And inside the models, I think it's much easier to come up here. Let's go into models, and we need three files. So let's use a touch utility for that. First one is user.ts or user.model.ts. That is also fine. we will have the product.ts, and we will be having order.ts. This is much faster and easier to do this way. All right. First of all, let's worry about the user. Again, if you have never worked with me in the backend playlist or anything, go check out. I have a whole lot of playlists and available where we have discussed quite in detail about it. The step one is to grab Mongoose, and we will also extract some of the things from Mongoose as well, especially the schema, so that it's easier for us. We will also need a model and models as well. This will be majorly for the TypeScript one, but it's okay. Even if you don't get it, that's fine. We will also need one more dependency because we want to hash our passwords, not encrypt, hash. So let's use bcrypt.js. So I'll just go ahead and say npm install bcrypt.js. There are two versions of it, bcrypt and bcrypt.js. I usually prefer bcrypt.js. Let's install this and let's grab this one as well. I'll just go ahead and say import bcrypt from bcrypt.js. That's it. This will help us to have this one. And yes, bcrypt.js needs to have the types being installed. And this is the command. Usually I grab it from here. This is anyways a dev dependency, but nobody remembers it. Everybody looks at it somewhere. And once you install this, it should be all okay. Or probably I need to reload the window. There we go. Now the error is gone, in case that red squiggly line bothers you much. All right, interface we'll talk a little bit about later. So I'll just explain you the part of it. First of all, let's say that we have a user schema. Worry about what you want to store inside the database. We'll have a schema just like this, although we will store the types in it, but I'll do that in a minute. So schema, it takes an object. All right. The first thing that I want to have is stored is email, and we'll be saying that the email will have a type of string. Usually that is how it goes. Required is true. Obviously, I don't want to have a record without the email. And let's also call this one as unique, not that unique, as true. All right, have a comma. What else you want to store? I would love to store two other things. Password, since we are going with the classic NextAuth. I will also go ahead and store a role for you. So you could be admin or you could be consumer or regular client, whoever you are. For the password, type string is okay. Required is true, but it doesn't need to be unique. Not everybody can have a unique password. And the role, for the role, let's keep the type as string, but we don't need required and all of that. Probably we can keep the required, or we don't need it. We will be selecting from a particular role. So enum is great, a use case in here. The first one is user and another one is admin. Feel free to have more role if that's the demand of the application. And let's give it a default as well. Default, if we have nothing, everybody is a user. All right. Also, what we can do is we can have created and updated at. All we got to do is add timestamps to true. This gives me field of that, and that's it. Now the last drill, you also know that we can have a const user. We need to export that, so we can just go ahead and say models actually dot user. If the models have a user, that's great. Otherwise, we're gonna go ahead and say model. Go ahead and create one for me and name it as user and use the schema, which is user schema for it. So again, as I mentioned, this file might be running for the very first time or might be running for nth time. If it is running for the first time, we'll use this one because this doesn't exist at that time. The user field doesn't exist. In that case, we'll call the model and we'll say that, hey, create a new entry in the database named as user and use this schema to create that. If it already exists, then it will just go ahead and grab it and give it to us. And that we're going to export. So we're going to say export default user. That's it. We haven't defined the type yet, but I'll briefly touch on the type, that what it does and what safety it brings, and then probably will not do it in the other files. So let's just say you want to export interface with the name of iUser. Feel free to call it whatever you like, iUser, my user. People use a lot of them. This is directly goes like this. And once you have this interface, now you can actually say that, hey, my schema will be of type iUser. This is supposed to going to give you errors at a lot of places that, hey, and again, while exporting this model as well, we will assume or expect that this will follow the rule that I have mentioned. And again, consider this interface as rules itself. Whenever you define something like this, you're defining that how does my schema will look like. So this will protect you from a lot of these cases. In our case, we're going to say that, hey, our interface is going to look like this. We will have an email, which is compulsory thing. And this will be of type string, just like this. And we'll say that now, since we have added this field, it's saying that, hey, you are saying that your interface needs to have just email. These fields are also there, so why they exist? You have to mention that, okay, I'm expecting these fields to be there. For example, the moment I say that I am expecting the password to be of type of string, then it says, okay, I'm fine that you mentioned the password should be there, but hey, the role is also there. What do you expect role to be there? I'm saying that role is going to have a precise value. Either it's going to be user. Now it's going to say, okay, at least user, that's the default, but you can mention that if it is not user, I'm expecting this is to be an admin. Any third type will immediately prompt an error. So that's the one thing. Now, another thing, we cannot be all done. This will give you a long time error in this place because this is all good. This is the code that you have written. But once this thing actually gets stored in the database, we get some additional fields, all thanks to MongoDB. So we'll just give it. Underscore ID is a field which MongoDB gives. We'll keep it optional because it might be there, might not be there. It's okay. In the MongoDB, it is always there. So underscore ID, we'll call it as optional, goes like this. And we'll say mongoose dot types dot object ID. There we go. So this is the type of it. Since we have also added this timestamp, this actually gives you two more fields here. The first one is created at, second is updated at. Order doesn't really matter. Created at, again, this will be of type date, optionally, type of date. And then we have updated at, optionally, which will be of type date. Again, as I mentioned, this is so predictable. Out of this, just mention the LLM that, hey, I'm using MongoDB. It will always give you these fields. And just mention that, hey, this is my schema. Give me the interface for it. And it generates beautifully. These manual labor work, you don't have to do much. Now, this reminds me that we have bcrypt. We don't want to store passwords like this. So let's add a hook for this one. So we're going to go ahead and say user schema. We'll have a pre-hook. Again, we have discussed hook quite a lot in my other series. This actually runs just before saving this. This one will be async. This will be a function, just like this. And what we're going to do is, first of all, we'll check like we always do. If this dot is modified and password, if that is the case, then we're going to go ahead and say this dot password is going to go ahead and say await. Bcrypt is going to hash it. Again, we are not encrypting it, we are hashing it. And hash, come on. This dot password. And how many rounds you want to have? So probably 10 rounds. So this is good enough. In all the other case, we're going to just go ahead and say next. All right. So in the case of all these things, again, why are you having an issue? User schema sync, we haven't passed the next like this. There we go. So in case whenever we are modifying, this will automatically take care of the password, saving and all of that. You can add more things that whenever you even save it for the first time, we're not going to do that. We are okay with that. So if this is modifying the field of password, if that is the case, then we'll run this code. It will encrypt the password. We are all okay. All right, as you noticed, we spent so much of time into writing this and these hooks. Rest of the part is easy. So let me go ahead and start working on the products first. Again, we can actually borrow some of the lines. The first line definitely can be borrowed. Paste this. And we can actually borrow from here to here as well. We'll change a few things in here, obviously. First of all, schema doesn't need to be like this. I'll just add it. Oops. This needs to be there. We need this part to be gone. And this part also needs to be gone. This will be called obviously as product. Schema, everything needs to be changed. So the idea behind here it is that we are storing the images. So how we want to store the images? The product itself will have a schema, and the image variant will also have a schema. So first, in fact, why did we copy this when we want to create all of this from the scratch? It happens to everyone. So let's call this one as image variant schema. And we're going to call this one as new schema. This one is going to be like this. So how do you want? I will have a type of this. Now type is like, what is the variation of it? Type will be a string of this one. Required will be true. And we'll be saying an enum. So image will have a variation. What variation we are going for? We'll give a square image, we'll give a wide image, and we'll give a landscape, or let's just use portrait image. So this is my type. Then we'll go with the price, of course. For the price, the type is going to be number, and what else? Required is going to be true. And minimum. For the images, we'll go with the minimum. And apart from this, we'll also work with the license. I think these are the three things which goes with each variant. License. This one will be type, and we'll be having a string just like this. And required. Yes, license is required. So let's just call this one as true. And you can have different license. We'll just again keep it as enum. So license could be commercial license, personal license, whatever you wish to give. We'll have a personal license, and we'll also have a commercial license. All right, so this is my image variant schema. But image variant is not a product itself. Product will be an image which will have multiple of the schema. If you remember, this is how we have designed it. So if you look at the view option, we have closed this. Probably it will not load, but you get the point. You have seen the demo. So now let's create finally the product. So this one will be product schema. How does our product looks like? New schema. So each product will have a name. So let's just give it a name. We'll say type is string, and this one will be required true. All right. Now, apart from the name, each product will have a description. Images love to have description. Required, probably, let's just keep it anyways, not bothering us. Now, image URL. This one will be of type string, required is true, it's fine. And then the final one, which is variants. Image, or let's just call this one as variants. Now, we will have multiple variants, so obviously we'll keep this as an array, and each array will be of type of image variant, so we will have multiple of them. Let's also have timestamps for this one. Timestamps turned to be true, which gives us again two things: created at, updated at. All right. And the last part is exactly same, so probably I'll copy this. I'm never shied away of copying and pasting. All right. So in this case, we're going to say this one is product. Either you have this one. Obviously, I'll add this one once I'm done. Product. And the schema that you will be using is product schema. There we go. And of course, make sure you don't call it as user. Product. And export this product. So told you, that's it. Now, obviously, now we will inject this one that, hey, this is what I want. See, again, mindlessly using LLMs or the chat GPTs is really a bad idea. Make sure you ask them to do the laborious work, which is, you anyways can do it. So this is an interesting part. This is where you decide what's going to store in the database, what's not going to be stored, and everything. Once you've done this, then, hey, just give this image variant and this product schema to LLM, and that's it, call it a day. Now, finally, the order. Again, the same stuff goes in the order as well. Order will have that, hey, how will the order schema will define? Well, again, we have to store the payment gateway as well. So what we can do is at least can bring this line here. Won't be bringing much. So const order schema, you know the drill now. New schema method object comes like this. So in this, first of all, we'll store the user ID, which will be of type string. And it's not going to be a string because we will be bringing the user from MongoDB. So rather we can have an ID from that collection. So I think we can just go ahead and say schema dot types dot object ID. So this will be a MongoDB ID. If we are storing this as a type, we need to send the reference that, hey, from where you are bringing this object ID. So we'll say the reference for this is user, and we'll say this required true. Required to be true. All right, so we are storing this. Also in the order, it is important that we store product ID, and product ID will have the same thing, object ID, but the reference that this time we are having is of product. All right. So every time you are making an order, we are storing your user ID and product ID. Now let's see what variant you have purchased. So variant. In the variant, let's define the type. So the type is going to be of a string, which one you are buying. So we'll probably can store here what values you are getting here. Let's just call this one as required as true. That looks okay. Enum, of course, because you don't have too many options to work on with. You might be selecting any one. So either that is square. We should be copy pasting at this point. Yep. This is the one that you'll be selecting. Copy. So this is the one that you might be selecting. And what we're going to do, we can actually give it that if you're selecting any one of them, we can have a little bit of the TypeScript can kick in, but we'll just work on this later on. I think that is variant is all okay for now. Let's move on to another one. The thing that we want to store. Next up is going to be the price here. So each variant can have a different price. So let's architecture it like this. So now this one is going to be price like this. And we'll say type is going to be number and required true. Required to be true. All right. So price is there. We can also have a license just like this. So we'll just copy paste this. License will be, again, we need to have the same kind of a thing for license. I think I'll copy this and we'll replace it like this. So license will be of type string. It is required, but the license looks like this. Copy this and paste it there. There we go. Now this is the variant that we are storing. Remember, this whole thing we have done for variant. So you have user ID, product ID. Now the variant that you have bought will have a type that, okay, I bought a square one. The square one costed me $10. And the license that is associated with is personal. So this is how we are architecturing it. The variant will give you a big object which will have all of these details. Could have been stored separately as well. Like it's a order. So variant could be separate, price could be separate. But I think having all of this in a variant makes sense. Totally up to you how you want to go, how you want to work, how it makes sense to you. Now another important information to store, always store is Razorpay order ID and the payment ID, any payment gateway that you're using. Razorpay order ID. This will be given to you by the Razorpay itself. You don't have to create schema or anything for that. Type string and we'll say required to be true. All right. So Razorpay order ID, and we'll also store Razorpay payment ID. This is equally important. Again, if you're using Stripe or something, then it's different. And we'll also store the amount. The reason for storing the amount here as well is because maybe later on you might want to add some coupons as well. So when you're adding the coupons, then the variant price is still same, that the price listed of this variant was $10 that you have bought. So the worth value is always here, but this is the amount that the user is paying. So that's what I'm storing. Maybe that amount might be less from the variant. So that's why I'm keeping it up here. Again, this gives you idea that you can later on inject a coupon system in this project. This one will be number required as true. All right, what else can we store? We can store the status as well. Status. Now status could be, again, we can actually copy this. Copy this, and status could look like this, not like this. Copy, paste. So this could be a type strict, required true. This will also be enum because Razorpay gives you these status, not me. So every payment goes through these status, pending, completed, and failed. Again, this is not universal. Every payment gateway gives you default of this. We're going to go ahead and say default, all of them will be in the pending state. As soon as the order was made, it was in the pending state. Why we are having this in the pending state? Because the reason for them having in the pending state, as soon as you mark an order, you pay for the card and everything, and you buy that, the response you get back is expecting that, okay, the payment was done, the transaction was done, but it is not recommended by Razorpay. Razorpay says that once you have received back, I'll give you an order ID and the payment ID as well. Then you craft a special webhook and query me that whether this payment was successful or not. Once we fire that webhook and receive the response, at that time, we're going to mark the status of pending to completed or failed, whatever has happened. That is why we are keeping it like this. Again, payment gateways sometimes can be a tiny bit tricky, but not much. We'll also have the download URL for this one, download URL. This will be storing that, hey, how can user download it? So all thanks to Imagekit, we will be having that, no problem there. This one will be of type string so that we can mail it as a download URL. We can also have a preview URL if you wish. Imagekit gives you that. We don't have to do anything for that. And this one will be string. And then finally, we'll have the timestamp. Timestamp being marked as true. All right, looks good. And finally, we can have this portion as it is. Copy this, and there we go. So this one will be order. Copy that, paste it here, paste it here, paste it here. This one will be order schema. There we go. But this part is all not done. I need to add a little bit of TypeScript. So let me go ahead and add the TypeScript, and then I'll walk you through with this. All right, so done with this one. So all I've done is added interfaces and constant on this. So notice here now the image variant, the square, wide, we have all the idea about how they look like. So I've added a couple of more constants as well to give more detail, and we probably can use them in a lot of places as well in the future as well. And apart from this, this is the constant that I've added, could have been added into a separate file as well, which gives you idea that what does the square means, what's the width of it, what's the label for it. And in the front end also, we probably can use this. Important part is the interface. So image variant interface, nothing much. We add a type, price, and license, just like we added here, type, price, and license. So we just create an interface for it. And here we have the iProduct. So remember, this is the iProduct we created. This now also have an interface. That's it. Few lines of code, nothing much big deal. Same goes for the order as well. We have to create this populated user and populated product. The reason for that is this user ID and product ID will be used for this one. So we're just keeping it that as a reference point. Again, it's not really required, but the reason why we are having it is later on, we're going to mark a query to that, hey, give me the order. Once the order is there, you don't want to have in your front end or don't want to send in the front end just the user ID. What he's going to do with the user ID, he'll make again a query to the database. So instead of he making again a query for user ID, another query for product ID, let's populate that. Populate means give the details of it. So with this user ID, we will be able to give them a detail. We'll write that as a controller. And the product ID also, we will be populating the details of the product. And that is the reason why we have gone through with the populated user. The ID will send the email. In the populated product, we'll give the name and the image URL. This part is absolutely easy. It looks long, but there's nothing. This we have discussed already. User ID, product ID, they are either going to be object ID type or the populated type. Either we'll get the ID or the whole detail of them, whatever wish you want to do. This is string date, no big deal here. And again, nothing changes up here. Additionally, I have added in this enum that, hey, this is going to be of type of image variant type. Remember, this is what we have here. So image variant types. There we go. We have constant, but this is also kind of image variant type. All right. So a little bit more modified TypeScript code, but I don't think so it was too much. Go ahead. Of course, you have the GitHub URL. You have the whole source code access. So try to work with that in case TypeScript is new to you. Take your time. No need to hurry and no need to worry on that. So as of now, we have connected with the database. We have also marked all of our models. Now we have to write one by one all the APIs. First, we'll write the admin APIs. We'll understand the concept of it, that, okay, how does a user register? How do we use NextAuth with that? And first we have to do the NextAuth before we do the admin part. So, okay, next section, let's do the auth part. So yeah, NextAuth is coming up next. All right, welcome back to the news section. For me, that's a new video. For you, that's a new section. So the goal of this section is to make sure that our authentication system is working fine, at least on the backend side of it. Surely we will have more of the things to be tested out on the front end, but that's not a big deal. We will handle the front end. First of all, let's handle the backend side of it, and especially how the NextAuth works. NextAuth is a fantastic way to put authentication on your website or your application. But the problem is its documentation is good, but there is a flow that is missing. Now let me show you what that really means. I'll share my screen. First of all, let's share this here. So on the NextAuth documentation, you're going to see that they have fantastic documentation all around the places. But the only thing that they're missing is this, which is the documentation that how the flow needs to work. Once you understand this flow and you take notes of these diagrams, that is it. You will never have to face any problem with any kind of NextAuth authentication, whether that's a GitHub authentication, whether there's a credential authentication or anything. In fact, the authentication with the GitHub and Apple and Google and all these third-party providers is much more simpler. But the difficult one is this one, which is providers with the credential provider. This is where a lot of problem comes and a lot of users face this problem. So I thought, let me create a diagram for this one. So I'll move myself ahead in a second. But first of all, let's see that what the diagram is saying. So whenever you want to implement NextAuth, the first thing that you have to ask yourself that whether this is going to be with TypeScript or with JavaScript. And the only difference that comes up is this nextauth.d.ts. This is description of the types that you're going to use with the NextAuth. Only this files either comes away or comes in or goes away. So since we are implementing everything with the TypeScript, this file will be there. And one by one, we'll be creating each one of them just by following this documentation. The next step is to provide options. Now this option is usually kept in a separate file because it's a really big set of options that we have to provide. In this case, we have a block. So we have a lot of blocks that we have to implement, and these are the only ones that we have to implement. The first block is the providers, in which you mention that what all providers you are supporting. We have only one block, which is credential provider, which is going to require the credentials that you will use to authenticate somebody and what's the logic of authorization. Now, in case of GitHub and Google, it's a simple process. You can just add them. The documentation is pretty simple, straightforward. I will walk you through with that as well. Now, once you have this provider, then you have to put up a block of the callbacks. What should happen when the things are successful? Then we will provide two callbacks in our session, one with the JWT, one with the session, because we are using the session strategy. Now with the JWT, it's a simple JWT token in which you can add as much information as you require. So we have to provide a logic for that. And same goes for the session as well, that what kind of session you're using and what session strategy, all these things. Now next up is the pages that, hey, from where these pages are going to be implemented, like what are the pages you're looking forward for login or sign up and all of that. If you have customized pages, then only it changes drastically, otherwise it remains exactly same. After that, some of the configuration options for the session. Remember, we don't provide any logics in here. We just provide that, hey, the strategy is going to be JWT strategy. The max age for the token to live is going to be 1 day, 5 day, whatever you wish. And then finally a secret, which is just a string, I would say, and that's it. So this is all that we need to give in the options. And don't worry, we'll follow this diagram exactly line by line. After that, we have to use these options and provide a route, which is exactly the folder name is like this or the file name is like this, square brackets, then dot 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 NextAuth, so that it captures all the routes and spread them up. And this is really the simplest part of it. The only problem which usually people face is in the NextAuth options. That is it. After that, register. The reason why register is in different color because it has nothing to do with the NextAuth. It is simply a registration form. You take the data for the registration, probably email and password, and just convert the password into a hash and then save it in the database. That is all what we do. And then the middleware, which is again where a lot of people face issues. So I highly recommend to use the with auth middleware. This is where you need to learn how to read the documentation as well as modify the documentation according to your need. I do have a diagram for this one. This is the exact one that we'll be using. Just go ahead and search for with auth, and this is what we'll be searching for and we'll be looking up for. So there are a lot of things in here, and again, we won't be using, I guess this is not the one. With auth, probably I need to search back again. I thought this is the diagram, but again, this is not. Let me just search that if we can with auth. I guess that is not the one. I need to look and search for it. Again, don't worry if that's too much for you. I will again come back here and we can just quickly look for providers. And in the providers, we are looking, oops, that's too much of the provider. I'll just say callback. I'll walk you through in as we go. So this is the one that I was talking about, callback, all the sessions and everything. So again, as I mentioned, this is really a lot that needs to go up here. And the middleware is again a tricky thing that we need to work through, and it's a little bit. Again, don't worry about the docs, we'll walk through one by one. So just to give you a summary of this, this is how it looks like when you try to implement NextAuth. You are simply working with the TypeScript, add the types for that, then configure your options. This is where we'll talk a lot about it. Go ahead and use this option and provide the NextAuth options as it is. Whatever is mentioned in the docs, we'll copy paste them exactly. Then go ahead and define your register route, which has nothing to do with the NextAuth. Take the user data and store that in the database. And the middleware, where we are going to have a bit of a talk about with auth. This is interesting one. We'll use definitely as it is from the documentation, but we have to change the things as we go further. So I think I'll move up here from, move myself away from the screen. There we go. And now let's go ahead and get started with this one. Let's follow the documentation one by one. All right. So the step one is nextauth.d.ts. So let's go ahead and create this file. This file usually lives in the root of your folder, just like we created type.d.ts for declaring the global values and all of that. Same goes for here. We'll just go ahead and create a new file. Let's go ahead and call this one as next-auth.d.ts. Now, of course, we have to install the NextAuth as well. Let's go ahead and do that as well. And the good part is we don't need too much. We just need the NextAuth. So let's go ahead and say npm install. That will be next-auth. And should be a fairly small package to work on with. There we go. That's it. All done. Now moving further, let's go ahead and have this this one being configured. So first of all, step one is import, and we're gonna say default session. That's the one we need. And same goes for it. Again, if you are not that much familiar with the TypeScript, that's okay. I'll be also using a little bit of this suggestions from the AI that will help us to write things faster. So that's a nice suggestion. We want to define an interface, really great suggestions there. And we will be using the user, but we'll also be injecting the role as well. So we'll just accept the default up here, but we'll just modify this. So what this does is defines an interface called a session, which is a really common thing. Everybody does that. So we'll have a user which will have an ID of a string, but also I want to add or inject role here. So let's go ahead and say I'll add a role here so that I can extract the role whenever I wish. I don't have to dig up into it. And I'll just say string. And again, the default session will be of session of user. If I want to modify that, I'll just go ahead and use that. Also, let's define an interface for a user as well. Interface user, and that will be just a role of string. We don't need an ID in this one. If we need it, we can just always come back and later. The AI really is a helper to help me to write these things faster. So thank you so much, AI, for that. All right, so this is the step one. Let's go back. All right, So one by one, this part is all done, and depends on how you're using, you might modify this NextAuth declaration here. This is all just declaration. Remember this one? Yep. So step one is all done. Now the next step is to simply go ahead and add the options for this one. This is where things get interesting up here. So for this, you can place it wherever you like. I'll just go ahead and place this inside the lib because these are just the NextAuth options. So I'll just call this one auth.ts. This will include all the NextAuth options. Let's go ahead and do that. So import NextAuth options. There we go. That comes from here. Also, we need credentials as well. So let's go ahead and read the docs that how it works. If I go back here and notice here in the configuration, we have providers, and inside this we have this credential provider. Let's go ahead and click on this. So the step one is to go ahead and import this credential provider from the credential. So let's go ahead and copy this. We'll copy one by one all the things that are required. Let's grab this one. So once we have this credential provider, then what we're going to do is, let's see. So we have to first define this providers, which is an array. And inside this array, you provide that, hey, the name is going to be credentials. And the credentials that we are using is username, password, or email password, whichever makes sense for you. After that, you define this authorize, which is a method that how you are going to authorize. You have to write logic for it. Remember the docs that we said? First, you have to provide the provider, the credential provider, the credentials that you're going to use, and the authorize method that how you're going to authorize. This says exactly that, credentials and the authorize. There we go. Now, once you have done all the authorization, then it says here the ... That means, hey, what do you want to do next? This is just the role of the credential. So let's go ahead and at least finish this much here. Let's go up here and say that, hey, and again, remember this kind of a thing. Providers, since we are writing this into a separate file, we need to export this. We're going to go ahead and say export const, and let's call this one as auth option, NextAuth options. That looks good. And let's close it up here. Now, once we have this auth options, the step one is to have the providers. There we go. Now, inside the providers, we have the credential providers. So first of all, let's go ahead and say credential providers. And the name credential just looks like this. Again, remember the name is credentials, always comes like this. Then we have the credentials. It has no idea what credentials we are using right now, and it has no idea how we are going to authorize. So it's just returning a hard-coded value. Let's go ahead and add a credentials here one by one. So first of all, the credential for us is email and password. So let's go ahead and work with this. The label is going to be the email and oops, the name here, just like this. And we'll just say label is going to be email and type email, and the placeholder can also be email. The reason for having this placeholder here is because we sometimes can actually use the UI from NextAuth as well. That is also fine. Similar to this, we will have another thing, which is password. So let's go ahead and have the password. Again, same thing. So we have label, type, password. There we go. Nice. All right, so the credentials this is the one we are using. Now looking at the docs, so this is the credentials, username, password, in our case, email and password. The authorize is the method where we actually go ahead and work with that. Remember, you have two things, credentials and the request. So you can technically intercept the request and work with whatever you like. In our case, we are going to just need the credentials, and based on this, we can query the database and see that whether this user exists or not. And based on that, we can actually return that. What do we want to return? And whatever you return, remember in this case we are returning the user, but whatever you're returning actually goes to the other objects that we have. So if we look at this, this is the credential provider, and this is where all of the return value in case of success goes back into the callback. You can provide that to JWT or in the session as well. Let's go ahead and instead of the hard code authorize like this, let's go ahead and remove this and start working with that. So the step one that we're going to do is let's see if we have the email and password or not. So async authorize credentials looks good. And let's check if we don't have a credentials email or if we don't have credentials password. That's nice. If we don't have this credential, oh, that's really nice. All right, I'm getting impressed by the AI. So if that's the case, then we are going to go ahead and simply throw an error. Instead of returning, we'll throw a new error, which will say is credentials just goes like that. And there we go. All right, this might introduce some of the errors just like this that we saw here, but again, it's okay. So if that is the case, we are fine. Now let's go ahead and try to see that. Let's use a try catch. So in the try catch block, we'll try to have it, and if nothing comes back, we're gonna go ahead and say console.error. We're gonna just have the error like this, and we're also going to throw the error. And we don't need to do all of this. We're gonna throw the error just like this. There we go. We should actually auth error so that we know exactly that what is going on and why is it wrong. All right. Okay, what do we want to do in the try block? So in the try block, first of all, what I want to do is connect with the database. So I'll just go ahead and say await connect to the database. So I'm going to go ahead and say connect to database, but we are not importing it. Oops. Oh, no suggestion. This is giving us, but it's not actually importing it. We probably need to import that. Let's just say if we can import that db.ts, and what we are exporting is connect to database. Let's go ahead and bring it back. I thought it will do it automatically. Import connect to database. That is not coming up from here. One directory back. Nope. Inside the current directory, db. Come on, too much of suggestions. db.ts. All right, let me just disable this. Snooze it, please. It's distracting me a lot. All right, I thought it will make life faster with the enabled extension, but turns out in the teaching it's not good. Why are you having issue? It has no member. Oh, looks like we have a typo here. So we'll fix it like this. We'll use connect instead of connect. All right, looks good. So we have connect to database instead of connect. All right, let's write it much faster there. All right, so now let's go ahead and get started. Once we have connected the database, what would be the next step? I would love to grab a user, and user will come from the user model itself. So let's just go ahead and say user model. No suggestion. Where we are having user model. Inside the models, we have the user. What we are expecting is user. Looks good. User. Do we have any suggestion for the user? Turns out, nope. All right, again, let's go ahead and grab it. Import user model and user. I would love to write it like this. And that will come from one directory back from the models. Inside that we have users. There we go. Now I can go ahead and use this user model. What do I want to do with the user model? I want to find one. I want to simply say find one, and through the find one, I will provide you the email which is coming up from credentials. It surely might be there. We have extracted the case email. All right, that's going to take some time, obviously, so let's await that. And if we grab it back, then let's store that into a user. There we go, much faster, much easier. All right, once I grab this one, that means that was good. If there is no user, I have to take care of that case. If there is no user, in that case, I'll just go ahead and say throw new error, and we're gonna say, what should I say? No user found with this email. I think that would be good. Once we are here, all right. The next step is that, hey, let's check the password as well. So we're gonna go ahead and say await and bcrypt. Why is it not doing any auto suggestion? All right, it should be doing it. Import bcrypt from bcrypt.js. the next thing that I'm trying to do here is simply just to see that the password is actually matching or not. That's what I'm trying to do in this case. So bcrypt.compare, and what do I want to compare with this one? The first option that I will be providing you is the credential password, credentials.password, and the second is going to be the password from the user, so user.password. There we go, looks okay. And once I have access to this, then let's just go ahead and say const is valid. There we go. We simply go ahead and just paste this up here. Hopefully this will find it. All right, so this finds it up, and if everything is valid, first of all, let's check if it is not is valid. Then again, we need to return an error. Instead of that, let's go ahead and say throw new error, and that says invalid password. Right, this looks good. Let's go back. If everything is good, the password is great, everything is great. The only thing that we have to do now is return whatever you want to return. In my case, I would love to return an ID, and ID will come from user._ID because it's stored in the database. But I would love to throw that as to string because it's in the mongoose format, object ID basically. And I will have an email. An email, I'll send it to you by user.email, just like this. And I would also like to send the role because I will be using it. Again, whatever all information you want to grab, you can just go ahead and grab that. I'll just say role, just like this. If you have more information, feel free to send it, but I'm not going to do that. And that is it. And apart from this, we will be just sending the catch, which is it. All right, so you got the part that what we are doing here. So this is the part we have concluded. Remember, we are writing options, and inside the options we have done the providers, credential provider, credential, and authorize. So these two parts are done, and whatever you wanted to return after the authorize, this is what we have done. So this is the most important part here. All right, so this is all done, and now we can close this entire block. So this provider block is all done. All right, this is the first part. Now the next part in the auth options that we have to go is the callbacks. What do you want these callbacks to happen? Remember, whatever you are sending back and all these things are actually accessible to you here. So let's go ahead and write one by one that what we want to do. So we'll just go ahead and say callbacks. There we go. And this is the flow that we need to work. So in the callbacks, we will have two of the methods available. If I go look in the docs, so in the credentials, and if I go check for the callbacks, credentials is here, and we should be having callbacks somewhere here. How can I search it? Sign in callback. Yep, that's the one. So notice here, this is the callback, and as of now they are just going with the sign in, but I'm pretty sure there are others as well. The first method is written up here, but there is one here, session as well. Yeah, here it is, session callback. So we have a session callback, and whatever you want to do. So in the session, you get the access of session token, and if optionally you have user, you can actually have the option of the user. Now through the session, you can actually go ahead and grab the token and the IDs and all of that. So this is the most important part in the session that you have to inject. Let's actually go ahead and copy this. That's the first part. So I'll just go ahead and say sync session. We'll just remove this one. And let's modify this. So in our session, we have the session, we have the token, but we don't need the user. So we'll just go ahead and grab it back. So what do you get from the session? A session actually has the session.user. Remember this is the user. So this is the user which you have actually sent back through the providers here. This whole thing that you have returned, this is the user information. Remember, email user.email, user.role, all these things, these are coming from the database, but this ID, this email, this role, everything is actually coming inside the session. So implementing the session is the most important part. We're not worried about access token and all of that, so we'll just go ahead and remove this. I don't need this part. All I need is session.user.id, And what I'm doing here now is that through the session, you can access the token. So I'm saying that, hey session, whatever the user ID is with you, you go ahead and inject that as a token.id. So that information I'm adding in here. And I guess it is not happy because I haven't said that this will be as a string. That should be happy. That's a TypeScript part. Now similar to this, since this is just putting us one role that this is going to be the ID, similarly session dot user dot role is also there, and I want to add that role in the token as well. Token dot role, and again as string. There we go. So whatever all information you have to actually go ahead and add this. Now here's the interesting part. Although you did have the access to the user here, but since we'll be using JWTs for a lot of callbacks and middlewares and all of that, now we can go to the strategy of this JWT. JWT has the token, account, profile, whatever the information you can, and this actually can persist. This is the important part. So let's go ahead and copy this and go back up here, and feel free to inject it wherever you like. The order doesn't matter. So this is our JWT in which we get the token, and we don't want this account and profile. We want the user to be there. And if the user exists, because we know this user exists up here, we don't need this even part. And then what we can do is now through this, we can have the token ID is going to be the user ID. This part we don't need. We'll go ahead and duplicate this. Token will also have a role. And this role will be user.role. Now, wherever you have the access to the token, you have added more information in this token, especially token.id and token.role. Now you have access to this, and now finally we are returning the token as well. I think this is unhappy because a comma. All right. So we have two methods that we have assigned in the callbacks. The first one is the session. Remember, the session is here. That is why you have the access to the token. Now in this token, feel free to add whatever the information you are adding. So in this token and session, you get the idea. This is really basic as it is the documentation. Now the next part of this is injecting the pages. So let's go back here. So pages and the session. This is easy part. You don't have to worry. So callbacks are all done. And then we simply go ahead and say that let's go ahead and add pages. There we go. Again, this is just an object, just work like this. And then we have the session. This is also an object that works like this. And then finally, what we need to provide is a secret. And secret we haven't yet added, so we'll be just grabbing it process.env dot NextAuth secret. There we go. We haven't yet added it, but we'll do that. Now in the pages, you have to provide just the sign in pages, that where is the sign in happening. We'll just go ahead and enable it inside the /login, and where the error needs to go. So we'll just go ahead and say this is where the same page, the error needs to go up here. That's it. Now in the session, what do you want the session, the strategy? This is the important part. The strategy that we are following for this session is JWT. There are other sessions as well. We'll just go ahead and add JWT. How much time you want to have? So max age, let's just provide 30 multiplied by 24 multiplied by 60 multiplied by 60. All right, so this is the option, and I know this is really long, but this is how the options works. And again, feel free to save this file somewhere. It takes a lot of time. Again, although a little bit of jumping into the docs and jumping back, but this is the part where we need to have all the NextAuth options. All right, once this is all done, now the next thing is creating the interesting NextAuth this folder. So let's go back and try to have this one. So inside the app, we don't have yet the API folder. Let's go ahead and create that. We'll close this one. We'll close this one. Let's go back. So inside the app, let's create a new folder, and all of our backend will live inside the API. So inside the API, let's create a new folder that we are going to call this one as auth. All of our authentication related stuff will go up here. And inside the auth, let's create another folder. start this folder with a square bracket, then triple dot, and then simply name it as NextAuth. NextAuth, and then close the folder. There we go. So all of our auth will go from this directory and we'll create a new file here, which will be route.ts. This is not really that big of a file. Now, apart from this, this auth will also have our registration logic. So let's create a new folder and call this one as register. Registration is nothing. It's just saving the fields in our database model. This one is going to be route.ts. All right, looks good. Okay. So first of all, let's manage the next auth options because these are the easy one. Step one is to import NextAuth. NextAuth. We are not able to see that. Maybe just like this. Yeah, this is the one, NextAuth. And we need to import the options. So we're going to say auth options. And this is the one that we need. And after that, simply go ahead and say handler is going to be NextAuth. And there we go. We provide the auth options. That is it. Told you, this is the easy part. And we need to export this handler. And not like that. Export handler as get and handler as post. So this is available now as a get and post. Told you, this is the easy part. The only difficult part is configuring these options. And this is where a lot of headache comes up. But once you realize, okay, this is a provider, I need to provide the credentials and authorization logic. After that, the callback, the first, because NextAuth always inject the session strategy. So we have to take all the variables and everything from the session and have to move it to the JWT. This is the flow. After that, the pages is pretty straightforward. It's always straightforward. The session is strategies and options. That's it. And secret, it's just secret. It's not that big, but once you actually implement and goes into this file, it really looks a lot. All right, so this is the login part. Our login part is all done. Let's also, since we are here, let's work on the register part as well. We are in the route.tx. So let's go ahead and write this part as well. So export and async, and we want to write a simple function for the post. And there we go. We simply go ahead and say we'll need a request, which will be of type of next request. There we go. And once we are here, there we go. Now inside this, first of all, let's inject the try catch. That's the easiest part. And we'll handle the catch part a little bit later. First of all, let's see that whether we are getting the email or the password. Since we are in the Next.js, always await the request. So request.json, we directly have an access of this. Once we have this, let's extract email and password. Just like this. And we say email and password. All right. If you don't have email and password, this is where I like the AI. It handles this part really nicely. If we don't have email or if we don't have password, then we simply go ahead and throw up a response. So we're going to go ahead and say return next response. And we'll say .json. There we go. And inside the JSON, we'll just go ahead and say, first, we're going to say error. That will be email and password are required. And we need to provide the code as well. So that will be a status. Status will be 400, I guess. That will be fine. All right. This part is all done. So how do we register? First of all, we connect to database. So we go ahead and say await connect to database suggestions. Love them. Once we have connected to the database, there we go. Now, after that, let's check whether the user exists. So we're going to go ahead and say user. Again, user model doesn't come up automatically, or does it? It is. There we go. I'm happy with this. So we're going to go ahead and say user dot find one. What do you want to find based on what? I want to find based on the email. So let me give you the email. If you have found based on the email, let's call this one as existing user. So if we were able to find an existing user, if there is an existing user, then we can just return a response just like this, copy this and paste it. Copy that, paste that. If existing user, why are you having an issue? This condition will always return true since this import mongoose query find one is always defined. Oh, because I forgot a wait. All right, so existing user, if we found that, we can say email is already present. We can write better messages later on and we'll just say 404. If that's the case, that's great. If that's not the case, we are not able to find the existing user, then we can just go ahead and say await user dot, and we can just simply say create what objects you want to create. I simply want to create a new user based on email, based on password, and the role that I'm going to give you is going to be the user. There we go. So this is pretty easy as a logic, and let's also return a response. Return next response. In the next response, we are going to go ahead and throw away a JSON just like this. And the step one is a message. That will be user registered successfully. And the second part is, why are you having an issue? It says object imperfect properties. Why is this having an issue? .json. Ooh, because this should not be here. Yeah, better now. And another one is going to be status is 200. 201. In the case of this, we can copy this and provide a catch as well. Console.error, that can be simply said as registration error. There we go. And we can also dump the error. Once this is all done, let's go ahead and say return the next response as JSON. That will say as failed to register a user. And there we go. The status is going to be 501 because I think we did something wrong. So there we go. This part is also all done. So let's see where we are. So we have done the NextAuth, we have done the register. Now comes the middleware. This is interesting. Let me find the docs for it first. All right, so this is the part where we inject the middleware. And remember, if you want to find the middleware, the easiest way is to just go ahead and search for it. I did exactly the same. I just look for the middleware and it gives me the middleware, this part, and lands me up on this exact page. But if you want to search it, configure and the Next.js, this is the one, the easiest way. Now in the middleware, you're going to see there's a lot of documentation being written here. I highly recommend you to read all of this. This is important and interesting. The one that we are going to use for our use case is in the advanced usage. If you look in the advanced usage, there are a couple of ways how the middleware can be injected. The first one is the wrap middleware. The second one is custom JWT decode method, and there's one more as well. The one that we will be using is the wrap middleware. This is the easiest one to work with. It's the most tested one and it works with most of the use cases. The first important line is this here. The middleware function will be invoked if the authorized callback returns true. So we have to match for certain pages and return true if we want to go ahead and use this. Let's go ahead and copy this and we'll just add it as it is and we'll work with that, how it works and default values and all of that. So in our application, the middleware needs to go in the root of the folder. So let's go ahead and create a new file here and call this one as middleware.ts. So we'll just paste this one as it is. Now this one as it is not going to work, but it gives us a great starting point. First of all, this gives us this with auth response. And whenever we want to send the auth response, since we are in Next.js, we don't need this request, next auth token, or anything like that. We have our own things to return a response, which is the next response. So we'll just go ahead and import this, which is next response, just like this. Now we can just go ahead and directly use. Now we have this method with auth available to us. This with auth arguments your request. I don't know what this is saying. Let's go ahead and remove this. The step one is to always invoke this middleware as a method, which will use your request, and then you can use just like this. Or if you don't want to use it, just go ahead and remove this. And instead of console logging this, we don't want to just console log this. We want to return here, or we want to just move it as it is. So here we're going to go ahead and say return next response. And inside this, we're going to say dot next. Now, in case you don't know how the middleware works, the next is the most important part of the middleware. Next allows you to move from one middleware to the next middleware. And that's what we're doing, that, hey, just keep on doing whatever you're doing. Now we have certain callbacks, which actually helps you to mark that whether the things are authorized, whether you want to run the middleware or not. So here it mentions clearly that the middleware function will be invoked or will check whether you're authorized or not, if only the authorized callback returns a true. So for the certain routes, you have to return the true, that whether we want to check this endpoint for the security or not. That's all what we'll be doing in this middleware file. Now watch this closely, what I really want to say here. The middleware function will be invoked if authorized callback returns true. That means in the authorized, whatever the pages you are checking, if you return true, that means that will call this middleware. And in our middleware, what we are doing is we are not doing anything. We are not checking. Basically, we are just forwarding it that we are okay to pass by. So we have to mark all the pages which are not supposed to be behind the authorization. So all the public URL will go in this callback and will just work like this. So we have this token as well. We probably can have a request here as well if we wish to, and we'll just work it here. So instead of this, we'll just remove this part in here, and instead of this, we'll use this, and there we go. Now we have to explicitly return. Let me walk you through with the one. For example, that I want that the call, there will be one webhook which we will eventually use, or there will be path like /login/register. All of these are auth related part. They should not be behind anything. So let's just say, let's work with that. If the path name dot why is it not, we need to actually extract the path name before we actually can directly use it. So let me go ahead and do that in a second. So we can just go ahead and say we want to extract something, and that will be coming up from request dot next URL. And now I can just go ahead and say path name. There we go. Now it will be usable. So if the path name dot starts with, and this one, let's just say starts with APIs. So there will be /API/auth. I want the authentication to be directly available to me. Or if the path name starts or not starts is actually equal to, path name is exactly equals to /login, or the path name is exactly register, then in all those cases, what I want to do is return true. Now remember what's happening. If in any of the cases we have the /API, the backend part of it is saying /auth, or it starts with /login or the /register, I'm just returning true. When I return true, this automatically is invoking this middleware part, and we are just moving forward. Next response dot next. That means we are moving ahead. That is all that we are doing in this case. Sorry for the mic bump. Hope it doesn't bother that much. So in this case, we have to go through with all of this. So let me go ahead and quickly write all the routes that I want that they should not be behind the authentication. All right, so I went ahead and wrote some of the path, like we will be creating APIs for products or anything that starts with products. They should all return true. They should not be authenticated. And in case of the admin route, what we're doing is, remember, we have the access of token here as well as the request here. Request we have used, but the token, if there is an admin route, For example, we have the admin route here. So we will check whether the token role is inside the token, we have a role admin or not. If we return this as a true, that means we will just keep on moving forward. If that is false, then the authorization, we will not allow it to move forward. For all other routes, token is required. And then also I have this final match route. In case you have worked with any kind of Next.js or anything, you know that middleware needs to match with the routes. You have to provide in the config that, hey, what all route the matcher should be there. So match all route except mentioned up here. And this is again taken up directly from the Next.js documentation itself. So I want to run this middleware on every single route except the public folder, the favicon, the next images, and the next static asset, so that they can at least load and my website can go up here. So this is the final part in the whole plugin system of the authentication. Let me go back and show you the docs as well one more time that we have written. So remember, whenever we are using TypeScript and the NextAuth, the step one is to define the authentication TypeScript data types that we have done up here. So in case you check this, NextAuth, this is the one that we did first. The second part is the configuration option. In the configuration option, we talked about the provider, credential providers, the callback, how JSON, the session is important to transfer any information in the JWT. Then we have pages and the sessions, and these are variables. After that, we worked on the NextAuth, which is pretty simple. Use the options and just put the handlers between the get and post. Then we simply have register, which is nothing much, just add the values in the database. And then we have simply the middleware. This is a little bit tricky, but always look for the docs for this. For example, we worked on this strategy here. So this is what we worked on. Only remember this last line that, hey, whenever you actually return the true, this invokes the middleware. If you want to do certain more checks in this, you can just go ahead and do that. This is basically saying that, hey, all these routes will be invoking this middleware as a functionality. That is it. And this marks the whole point that, hey, we have injected the authentication in our whole system. Of course, this requires a little bit more testing, but I would call it a day. That is it. We have done the authentication part. Let's move on to the application now. All right. Welcome everyone. And in this video, we're going to go through with the Imagekit documentation, as well as we're going to see that how we can utilize the SDKs provided by the Imagekit for Next.js in order to help us to upload the images. Right now, our current goal is how we can enable uploading of the image, and then eventually we'll work on how we can get the URL of the images, can display them and all of that. Again, we have to go through with the documentation. There is no other way of handling this. So let me share the screen, and you can just go ahead and log in into your Imagekit account. I'm pretty sure you might have done already. They have a generous free tier as well. Now in the integration part, as you can see, they have a whole lot of integration for plugins, and there's even more if you wish to go with that. I am interested in Next.js, so you can click on this and you will land up on the Next.js page. By the way, if you want to just go directly into documentation, go to their docs and look onto the quick start guide, and you're going to see that everything is there. Anything that I want to code or I have coded in the past, all of them are available here. All right, so after moving here and there, let's just say that you landed up on where you want to be, which is on the Next.js page. So it depends on whether you are landing on the Next.js page through this whole thing or anyhow, the whole part is you should be up whether via here or with the direct documentation. This is the documentation that we have to go through together to figure out that how we can upload the images. Now, the best part is the flow of this documentation. We have all the things which are required. Set up the Next.js Imagekit, rendering the images, we want to add overlays, everything is mentioned. Just click up here and they will teach you that how the image overlay works and what you can do with that. Whole thing is mentioned. Our goal right now is to simply upload the images in the Next.js. So let's go ahead, read through it together and then implement it. The step one is to set up the backend, which is npm install Imagekit. I'll copy this and I would love to just have it up here. I'll close everything and let's go ahead and install the Imagekit. Shouldn't be a big file. There we go, really teeny tiny. And after that, it says the backend SDK requires your public API keys, private key, and the URL endpoint. Very easy to grab. We will grab that. And after that, we have to create the route API auth route.js. So this is the route that we have to create. In this route, we have to provide the Imagekit, the new Imagekit, all the public URL, and export Next.js response as imagekit.getAuthentication parameter. So how does the Imagekit will know that the person who is sending the image is registered or is authorized? So for this, we have to create this part here. Now for this, I think it would be super easy to work on with. Let's also work as we go. So we don't need this, we don't need this. So inside the auth, or inside the API actually, not the auth, let's create a new folder. And we're going to call this one as simply Imagekit auth, Imagekit-auth. And of course, inside this, we need to create the route file. So let's go ahead and create a new file, which will be route.ts. All right, looks good. Now inside this, they are saying that you need to grab this whole thing. So let's copy this and paste it. All right. Now a couple of things which is usually being changed. So first of all, we need to grab all these public key, private key, and the endpoint. So we will grab that from the Imagekit. This import statement is all good. Now here we're going to change this a little bit. So this request and all of this is good. We are going to go ahead and wrap this up inside the try catch. So let's cut this out and we're going to simply go ahead and say, give me a try catch block. And inside this, we don't need to actually grab anything at all. We can directly go ahead and just work with that. It's not getting used anyways. So for this, let's paste this up and we're going to separate this into separate lines. So we'll remove this, although it's not required, but we are still going to do this. Let's call this one as const. This one is authentication parameters. There we go. And that's it. And then finally, we are going to return the next response .json and parameters. That's it. All right, looks good. And in the error part, we can just simply go ahead and return next error, or we can just simply say next response .json error. And we're going to go ahead and say error just like this. All right, looks good. So this is the first part that they mentioned that you need to have. Again, there is nothing much of a big deal. Request is not getting used. We are directly sending the next response. So this part is okay. So this is the part which we'll be using. So that's the first part of authentication. Configure authentication in the front-end app. We haven't worked on the front-end app, so we will be working on this very soon. And what they are actually saying that you need to actually make a request onto the endpoint and grab the response, and based on the response, you have to work on further. Also, this says that there will be an Imagekit provider. So you need to have a provider file on the front-end side where they provides you this Imagekit provider. So notice here, can I zoom this? There we go. So in this, we will have this Imagekit provider in which we are going to provide the URL endpoint, the public key, and bunch of other things like authenticator. This authenticator comes up from this method. Notice this is the method authenticator, which we have to grab a sync, hit the endpoint as a response, grab the response, and that's it. So we need to do all of this and endpoints and all these things. So I think we can just copy the top part of it and let's see one by one we can work with that. And another important part is our session provider, the Imagekit provider. Do we have the Imagekit provider? Let's go ahead. This is the Imagekit provider. Let's see. We haven't worked on the front end part yet, so we're going to close the API and let's go ahead and create a new folder for it. All right, so just inside, just at the level where the API folder is, exactly that level, we are going to create a new folder. Let's call this one as components. These are all going to be front-end components. And we are going to create a new file and we'll call this one as providers.tsx. What the strategy behind creating the provider is, because our NextAuth is also going to give us some of the providers, especially the session providers. So we're going to use that as well. And we're going to use the providers by the Imagekit as well. The step one, we're going to convert everything to use client. So it's a client component. We are very sure of it. And after that, let's go ahead and bring up all of this actually. Let's copy this and then we're going to manipulate that. And let's go ahead and mark this as use client. There we go. All right, so we don't have this Imagekit IO next being installed. So step one is to go ahead and install this. npm install Imagekit IO on the next. So this is the next SDK for the Imagekit. Go ahead and grab it, install it. All right, so let's reload this. There we go. Should be all happy now. And everything looks okay. Now, this is the authenticator section, and we can modify this a little bit, not much. We need to have a providers and all of this. So this is the home that they are giving us. Not liking it. Let's change this. Instead of returning home, I would love to return a provider which has a method and just renders all of this part. So this Imagekit and all of this, we're going to render this. So let me just remove myself up here so that you can focus on the code part only. And in fact, let's get rid of all of this. Yeah, we don't need all of this. We are going to export on our own. Let's go ahead and remove this. All right, so we're going to directly say export default. And let's call this one as function. Did I wrote it correct? Function. This one will be providers. Our file name should be providers as well. Yeah, that is provider. There we go. This is going to accept children. And this is going to be specifically of type children. They will be of type of React node. There we go. Goes like this. All right, we will return things from here. But first of all, let's create an authenticator method. Let me just go ahead and grab this. This is the authenticator method. Let's copy this, paste this. This is authenticator, which will going to be async as a method, and goes like this. Now inside this method, you might have noticed that we have a try catch block, and inside the try catch, we are just sending a response or fetching a request. That's it. Let's go ahead and use a try catch. Inside this, let's just call this as const res as a response, and then, oops, let's grab this part, await fetch the method. Go ahead and grab this, and this time we are going to create the fetch method. So we will actually inject it not like this. We'll modify this a little bit later. So what we are doing is hitting /API, and the route that we have is not the auth. We have Imagekit-auth. So whatever the folder name you have provided, just go ahead and use that. In my case, it is Imagekit-auth. So go ahead and provide that. And then they are throwing this. If response is not okay, just go ahead and throw the error. That's okay. So if the response is not okay, then go ahead and just throw a new error. We are going to go ahead. We don't need all of this. We can just directly send the request fail to authenticate. We don't need all of this. Fail to authenticate. That's it. Save this. There we go. And if everything looks great, that in that case, we have to return the signature, expiry, and the token. Or you can directly go ahead and return the res.json as well, if you wish. We definitely need to do that. So let's just say we are going to return res.json. And why I was able to do so, because they actually mentioned this up here. If you scroll this, this is the whole JSON that they expect that you will be sending. So token, expiry, and signature. So this is the whole object. And here also they are destructuring that, and signature, expiry, and token, they are doing that. So we can directly throw the data.json directly out from here. So we'll just do that. And in the part of error, let's just go ahead and handle the error part as well. We're going to go ahead and simply say throw error. That's it. Now this is the part of authenticator. Now let's go ahead and use the authenticator. How do we use it? So if you notice, this is the Imagekit provider that we have. This has the public key, URL endpoint, and the authenticator as well. So let me copy this for a moment. And once I'm outside of this, I will go ahead and say return like this. And then we are going to go ahead and just paste this as it is. So this is our Imagekit provider. URL endpoint is public key. The URL endpoint authenticator is authenticator. So whatever you are having, children components, we are having children. So this is how you learn from the docs directly. And there we go, children. That is it. But now comes up the interesting part. Since we are using the NextAuth, what we can do additionally here is I can go ahead and say import, and we can go ahead and say session provider from NextAuth React, and we can wrap this up here. So we can just actually cut this whole thing, and we can just wrap this up with session provider just like this, and paste it up here. Now this one is looking forward. We can optionally provide some of these optional methods, which is refetch interval. There we go. And I can provide 5 times of 60. So after every 5 seconds, it's going to just go ahead and require that. I'm not sure about the fetch interval, the number. So if set to D0, nothing being polled. Session provider automatically fetch the session. Behavior is true. I need to check out the number here as well. I'll probably do that later on. All right, so this is the part where we work on if we have more providers or anything, we can wrap them up accordingly for the needs. So this is our session provider, which is always going to check for whether the session exists or not. And in this case, we can just simply work like that. So I think that's a good implementation. And now the Imagekit provider, we have the Imagekit and we are ready to upload the image. And we still need to work a little bit more on that, but this is the part I think is okay. So now we have this provider. All right, I think let's call it a day up here. And that's it. That is the basics of how the image part is being done. We are not yet done. We are still the basics of Imagekit, that how the prerequisites of this all being done. In the next video, we're going to move forward and we're going to define more routes so that we can use these providers and can craft a way so that only admin can actually go ahead and upload the image. Definitely going to require a little bit on lot of things on the backend part and a little bit on the front end part. But I think let's keep this really short here and let's catch up in the next video. All right, welcome to the next section of this mega project that we are building on an image e-commerce. And technically it cannot be just image. It can be any e-asset, files, PDFs, maybe you want to sell the books. So there are two major components of any such things that we are building. This time we are using Imagekit. So the part one where we studied a lot in the last section was how we can have proper permission, and that permissions are wrapping up our components so that we have enough of permission that, hey, we are allowed to send our files. And this permission includes all the API keys and all the public keys, API keys, secret keys that are available to us, and that is wrapped up in the provider. Now the step two is to have an image component which will be responsible for sending the image as well as getting the response. So we're going to work through with this, and that's the only major part of this entire series. After that, it's just the business logic that of course we are going to write. So let me walk you through with this. Let me share the screen first and have a small discussion on this. So let's first go up here onto the web dev road. So we worked a lot on this one. All right, let me just write some of the stuff. So we worked on this authentication, NextAuth and all of this. And now if we just go ahead and work on Imagekit, need to adjust a little, sorry, Imagekit. So there are always two parts of the Imagekit that we have to go through. The first one is the permissions or provider, I would say. And they write it really beautiful in a beautiful way in their docs as well. So the first one is a provider and the second one is the component. This part, provider, we have already gone through and we have worked through, and this is the one that we have done. And the next part is the component. Let's go ahead and study that component, and together we're going to be building this one as well. So if I go ahead and look into the docs section of it, if you go ahead and see this, that from where the actual setting up the backend app, it goes up here. So the step one was to simply go ahead and install the Imagekit. We have done that. The next one is to simply make sure that you have enough of the permission. So this is where you define all of your endpoints. We have already worked with that. We have already grabbed this authentication parameter. So in case you are confused in that, this is the provider. So remember, this is where we have all of this providers and all these stuffs. So we have grabbed all the keys and stuff. And we have also grabbed all the possible things which they asked for us. And I really like how they actually mentioned that what will be the expected response. Really nice of them. This part we have done, and this provider part, all good. So if you remember, we have the providers, all the providers are here. We have this Imagekit provider, all in action, going up nicely. Now the next part, whenever you're uploading this, if you remember, this is the Imagekit provider. This is the part we have worked on. Next thing that we need to do for uploading an image is to grab this component. So this small thing, if you remember and see this, this is IK upload. So this IK upload is another component that is provided to us by the Imagekit, and we can just use this, and it provides us so many things. Like for example, I need to zoom out. They provide us this on error. So we can actually write a customized method. Whenever there is an error, we can write that and it automatically gets invoked. On the success, we can actually write a method and that automatically gets invoked, and we can have this. Notice this. The syntax is pretty easy. On error gives you an error object. You can just console log this and see what goes in. And on success, we get a response, and we can also console log this and see this. This is a proper way of learning, writing all these things. So let's go back up here, close the provider, and let's build a component. Now, the best part of building a separate component for this is now I will be able to I can freely use this component wherever and whenever I like. Maybe in our case, it's just admin. Maybe you want to use it at maybe different places. That's actually much more easier. So I'll just right click and create a new file and call this one as simply file upload. File upload, of course, .tsx. And I can have a React component just like this, and we'll change this a little bit. I will change this one and we'll say export default function, and this one will be file upload. Why are you having an issue? Should be all okay. We don't need a React or anything because we are in Next.js, but one thing that we'll be needing is use client suggestion. That's awesome. Thank you so much, our code assistant. And the step one is to grab the image IK upload, which is given to us. So this one is IK upload, and this one comes from Imagekit.io next. We have already installed it. Now here's the interesting component which actually took us a little while, and yeah, we had to dig up a little bit into the docs, a little bit into even the source code of the Imagekit, and that's where we were able to grab this. And this is really surprising for us, but again, you get this. So there is IK upload response, which is also there. So yes, this comes up from there, although it's always available in suggestion. This actually gives you a nicer response, and you can play a lot around it. And we'll also bring in the use state hook as well. So import, and we'll say use state. There we go. Really basic hook, nothing much there. And also what I would like to do here now at this point, I would like to introduce you with a package which we use quite a lot. And this is Lucid-React. In case you are not aware of the Lucid React, it's a pretty nice package and library which makes your life a lot easier. Lucid React. And this is Lucid React. It gives you all these icons, like you can see the icon note, burger. A lot of icons are there. I wish there could be a demo where I can see that. What is Lucid React? Come on, show me some icons. Colors. Yeah, I know, sizing. Come on. Yeah, here it is. So these are some of the beautiful icons that we can just go ahead and work with them. They look really beautiful out of the box, and we can just start working with that. All right. So this is what the Lucid React is. Now, not only that, we now need to go ahead and start working with some of the things. So I'll just go ahead and we will definitely add the types part of it. But first, let's go ahead and clean this up as a basic. So I will have this state here, which is uploading, and set uploading. Initially, it will be false. We also need a state for errors. So I'll just go ahead and say, hey, I will be having an error suggestion. Yep, set error. And thank you so much for suggesting the TypeScript friendly. Two things we worked on. First one is on error, and then on success. We'll call this one as handle success and on error. Feel free to use any name. So this one will be on error. This is going to handle the error part. So we'll just say not like this, error. This is going to be a message. Inside this, we'll be getting a message string just like this. Nice. There we go. Nice suggestion. And again, almost all of the errors that you see, especially decently designed libraries, they have this error has this object message, which is usually in the string part, and you can display this. But displaying this error message just like this should be done with a little bit of caution, because sometimes the errors are cryptic. Cryptic by in terms mean, I mean to say, cryptic as to be understandable by coders and not the general public. So use it cautiously. And I'll just say error. We are going to just go ahead and set the message just like this. And we're going to say set uploading false. Really basic, no much big deal. Now let's handle the success as well as we studied in the docs, which will be handle success. And a suggestion, waiting for it. First of all, we'll just go ahead and say for this, we will be getting a response. And in the response, we will be getting IK upload response. Good enough. There we go. First of all, the step one for doing handling the success means set uploading false. This is not uploading anymore. We also get rid of all the errors now that, hey, everything was clean. And we can also go ahead and now set another state for success as well. I think this is given to us by on success. Let me go ahead and quickly check this. All right, so let's do one thing. We are going to design this particular method in such a way that whoever is calling this method will actually give us a method, which we are going to call this one as on success. So I don't know where this file upload method will be used. Maybe somebody wants to send X on the success, somebody wants to say Y on the success. So this will become a reusable component. So whenever there's an on success, we're going to just go ahead and take this one. In fact, not only that, let's take multiple of the parameters, and I'll call this one as on success, just like this. And we have to define the type of it. I won't be going with the any. So I'll just say on success response Imagekit upload void. So this Imagekit upload response, this is where we are grabbing this as a prop. So this is just a method. You can see that this is a response. So what we're doing and what we're saying, when the success happens, we know that we have removed the uploading status, we have removed the errors response. Then we'll say that, hey, on success, we just pass it on the response as it is. I don't want this event to be here. There we go. Not like that. There we go. All right, so our handle success method is all good. Now also, let's say we want to have a simple method which is handle start upload. As soon as the upload has started, we want to show the status or something. Common practice being done, let's also design this method. So we'll say const handle start upload. There we go, just like this. And what we're saying is set uploading to true and set error to null, so that this is getting started. Surely you can write more methods and stuff on that. Now here's the interesting part. In the div, we are having just file upload, but this is going to be changed a little bit. First of all, let me add nothing much, but just one class here. Class name, and this one will say space dash y dash 2. So we have some spacing on the y-axis now. Go back up here. There we go. Now this is the part where we need to read the docs a little, and that's a good sign. So we have this Imagekit upload, and I'll just go ahead and grab this one directly, copy this, and bring it up here. Instead of the file upload, we'll just bring this component. So we have file name. Feel free to call this file whatever you want to call later on. Once the upload is success, you can rename it, or you can use a simple UUID here to change that. I am going to call this one as product dash image. There we go. On error is this one, and success is going to be handle success. There we go. Nice and easy. So this part is okay. We will also use this another prop on upload start. We handle it with the handle start upload, which we have designed, nothing much. We can definitely add some classes. I will do that. But one of the interesting thing which we studied this image upload component itself is that it gives you some of the restrictions as well. So we can validate the file as well. Notice here, there's a validate file. And by default, this is written as method true. So it allows you to upload any kind of a file. But additionally, what you can do is you can go ahead and do something like this, that, hey, I will get any file, which will be a type of file itself. And once I have this, then I can just create a method like this. And now I can go ahead and validate that whether the file is properly or not. So I can do a lot. let's go ahead and define that what are the valid types that I'm allowing user to upload. So valid types. There we go. Nice. Thank you so much for suggestion. So we are allowing user to upload image PNG, allowing image JPEG. Remember, if you are allowing JPG, then you have to write that as well. Keep that in mind. And we are allowing image JPG. Yeah, that's also there in the suggestion, but I'm also going to go ahead and say WebP. So these are my valid types. And now I will say that if it is not in valid types and include the file types, that's nice. Thank you so much. We are going to go ahead and set an error. Come on, suggestion, invalid file types. So again, nice and easy way for me. I will also go ahead and check whether the file is of certain limit or not. And by the way, why it is giving you an error? Because you are not returning true. It needs to return true at the end of it. Once you return the true, it is all happy. So you get that. Now also, it's not just one invalid type. I would also love to check the size of it. I would allow only 5 MB of the limit. So I'm going to go ahead and get that. And there we go. I will also write this so that it's easier for you to check it out. I will say 5 megabytes limit. There we go. So I told you, it's a really, really nice component that we have that as soon as this is all going on, it works nicely and all of that. Now, on top of that, what we can do additionally here is that once this component is here, we can actually optionally render some of the components in here. For example, I would just go ahead and say we have the uploading, and once we are having the uploading, we will load this component. What this component will do, it will just say that, hey, this is uploading. You can definitely load a spinner and all of that. I am not going to do that. I'll just keep it like this. I'll surely update this one. This is right now a paragraph, but we have designed a different whole div. It's not a big deal. You can go with that. Final thing that we want to do is show the error messages, and that's also super easy. Exactly copy paste of what we have done. So we'll have the error. And once we have the error, we will have ampersands just like this. And we will say that, hey, show the error. That's it. So whatever the state of the error is, we are displaying that on the text thread, but definitely we will do this a little bit better in the code files that you're going to see. This is the one. So I would like to summarize here. So notice here how we followed the documentation, not just blindly, we studied them line by line, what's happening. It was written beautifully. We studied that beautifully and we implemented this. Giving you another thing, provider. First of all, it was important to understand that they cannot allow anybody to upload. You need to be a valid user. So they will check your URL endpoint, your public key, your secret key, everything details need to be checked. We did check that and we created a wrapper, which is a provider, a session provider, Imagekit provider, and all of the things will be loading up there. The second component or second part of is that, hey, now I want to upload the image. So they give you a prop or not a prop, basically a component for you, which is this one. Here and IK upload, and we studied that. Okay, you need an error message, you need a success message. That's it. This whole part we have already done this, so we will do that somewhere else. We don't need to worry about it, and that's it. This is what I really like about when the documentation are designed nicely and how you understand them. You're not focused on writing the code as I'm writing. Hey, follow me up. He's typing X, I'm typing X. No, you're trying to understand the big picture of it so that you can design later on things on your own as well. That is it for this section. I hope it was interesting. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next section. All right, so this part or this section of the video is all business logic, specifically focused on just the product. So let me walk you through what we have done so far in case you are a little lost there. We haven't done much actually if you just look at this. So if I take you back, we just did auth, but we understand it now really nicely. You will never face any problem with it. We have also worked with the Imagekit, and Imagekit has a lot of chunks on it. That's why we moved a little bit on the front end side. We don't want to as of now. But in order to implement Imagekit, we need to work on Imagekit auth, the provider part of it, as well as it makes sense that within this moment, we understand the image upload part as well. That's why we moved a little bit on the front end. We implemented the providers, we implemented the file upload. But our goal right now is not to move into the front end yet. We want to first complete the backend part of it, the backend logics of it. So auth is complete, Imagekit is all complete. Now we want to work with the logic part of it. So with that, it should be fairly easy to work on with. For example, not like that. For example, I want to first of all finish the product as an API part of it. So I'll just go ahead and say this is my API part. So we have the product, or we can call this one as products. I think products would be good. So this will be my first route where I will handle the products, as well as there will be another routes where we are going to handle the products slash whatever the ID comes up. So I'll just square bracket ID just like that. There we go. So this is the next thing that I have to work on with. Really simple, very basic business logic, no big deal there. All right, so let's go ahead and write that, and hopefully our AI assistant will help us a lot in this one. So in the API, let's create a new folder, which will be our route in itself. So we'll call this one as products. Now products will have two things. The first one being route itself. So let's create a new file, and this one will be route.ts. This will be basic for products, and we will also handle the IDs. So we'll create a new folder, and we have to provide a square bracket ID. So this will automatically catch the ID from the URL itself, and it will be available to me inside the route.ts. One by one, let's take one by one. First of all, the route, which will be the product. So there we will have two things. First of all, I want to see that, hey, what are all the products listed? And if somebody is making a request, post request to the products, then we should be able to handle that as well. Let's handle one by one. Easier part first. So I'll just go ahead and say this one is going to be async, and we'll say function get. So yeah, let's go ahead and get function should be first one. There we go. Now in the get function, we will obviously wrap this up in the try catch. It obviously does. First of all, step one is to connect with the database. So I'll just say connect to database. Why no suggestion? Database. Come on. No suggestion. I thought it's being updated that if I have now these suggestions, it auto imports, but sadly it doesn't. You know the drill, the auto import is not that of a big deal. We are going to go ahead and say connect to database. This is inside the lib DB. Oh, do we have a typo? Yes, we do have a typo. I remember that. So we should be fixing it up here, but this will break a lot of places. So I'll just go ahead and keep it this way. Before releasing it to final one, I'll just go ahead and change that. So not connect to database. All right. Hope you excuse me on that. We are also going to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and grab product. So I usually keep it like this. So we will have an await. I will have this product dot find product. Nice model. And I'll just say dot find without giving any parameter. And I would also give it a method of lean, which is a fairly new method. You can go ahead and work on with this. Try to figure out what this lean method does. This will give me the list of all the products. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is products. There we go. All right, so products are available to me. If there is no product, then I have to handle accordingly. So if there is no products, if there is no products, or the products dot length is 0, then we will go ahead and just do like this. There we go. I will go ahead and say return next response, no product found. We don't have next response, so import next response. There we go, like that. And once this is all done, then we can just return everything was good. So next, let's return the next response and products with the cases. Now, in case of the error, first of all, I would love to do a console .log, and we will log the error, and error would be fetching the product. We will also go ahead and send the next response to something went wrong. Pretty easy. As I told you, the business logic part is fairly easy. We will also create a method. This one is for get. So I want to get everything from the database. We need to have another method which goes ahead and post some data inside this particular model. So export async post request, not like that, definitely. And we'll go like that. We'll just go ahead and wrap it up try catch. Let's handle the try part. First of all, in order to do so, we need to get a server session, because I don't want anybody to allow to upload. Only the authenticated user, and especially the admin, should only be allowed to upload. So the step one is to grab the session. So we'll go ahead and say session. We will grab it from, not from here. The session will be coming up from await get, no suggestion, get server session There we go, from the NextAuth. And we have to provide the auth options as well. So auth options, we also bring it up. There we go, standard process. Whenever you want to authenticate, same process, same goes. Now we have to check whether do we have a session, and also not just session, I also want to check whether I'm an admin or not, because in my case, only admin is allowed to upload. In your case, it might not be. So if you have a session, or a session should have a role. So session role is not admin. And what we are going to do, if we even don't have a session, this is going to give you error. So we'll optionally unwrap that. We should optionally unwrap user also, but that's okay. And we'll have it. So I'll just go ahead and say return next response unauthorized status 401. Pretty good. Love that. Now, if that is all the case, you have all going good, then go ahead and first await connect to database. Nice, you have learned that I am doing typo there. Await connect to database. Once you are connected with the database, let's go ahead and grab the data from the body. So that's nice. Once I have grabbed the data from the request.json, again, don't forget this await. This is a common error that a lot of people does. Once I have this all thing being done, request.json, we can also go ahead and do a little bit of type safety in case you wish to have. I can just go ahead and say, hey, my product is not of any type. It's a special type that I can mention, that is product. I can bring it up from the models. Now I know that whether everything is going good. Type safety, that's nice. Once I have this, I need to check whether all the data is coming in or not. So if you have no body dot name, description, price, image, category, we don't have this much. Let's check the models, products. What do we have? All right, so our image product will have ID, name, description, image URL, and variant. I can just grab them. This is optional, so I need to just grab this for my reference. I'll remove that in a minute. I have name, I have description, I have image URL, and I have a variation. So variant, and it will be a length. So first of all, let's actually remove this. We'll also remove this. This was just for reference. And we will check here if the body length, variant length is 0, then I would love to go ahead and throw them an error message. So in this case, we will just go ahead and return a response. All fields are required. All right. So this is my checking part. Once the checking part is all done, now we can just go ahead and create a product. So just like this, create a product from the body itself and send it as a response. We'll just go ahead and say return new product status. There we go. Make sure you are using AI, but you need to know and evaluate each step. Otherwise, you'll be just hunting for the errors. So don't do that. And here what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to say console.error and error, and then we can just return the response just like this. So there we go. Makes my life so much easier. So this is the part where we have done and worked on the post request and the get request of it. And we need to work on another thing, which is now we are going inside the ID and we are going for that. Now here, there's not much. You will accept some data from the URL. So you need to grab that props.param. So that's nice. And apart from this, let's just find that product by the ID that we are grabbing. That's it. Let's go ahead and work on with this. Export, and we're going to go ahead and say async function, which is get, and we are going to grab some of the requests. So I'll just go ahead and expand this like this. First of all, we will have request, which is not the type of request. Bad suggestion. This is a type of next request. And I will write it better. Request, next request. We will also have the access to the props, and we need to define the types, which will be in params. And this is not an ID string. Most of the suggestions will be like this, but in the newer version of Next.js, this is not how it looks. It is promise. Yeah, this is a common gotcha. So promise ID string, yep, this is how it is. Okay, all right. Now let's go ahead and wrap it up with the try catch. Let's handle the try part. First of all, I want to grab an ID. So that should be easy, not very hard. ID, and I grab the ID by saying await props.params. Super easy. Next step, connect to the database. Await, connect to database. There we go. And that's it, executed. Now we are connected to the database. And now we need to find this stuff. So I think that's a great suggestion. Find by ID, but the ID is like this. And we don't have a product yet. So product and find by ID. We can also go ahead and use a lean. I'm these days using it a lot. By the way, go ahead, find it out. It's a pretty nice one. If you don't have any product, no problem. Go ahead and work it like this. If you don't have even a response. Next response, there we go. So if we don't have any product, we simply go ahead and return a response that, hey, product was not found. If the product was found, we go ahead and return that particular product. Pretty easy standard operation. We can also go ahead and say console.error and error, no need of 3 R's. Come on. Error and error, just like this. And we can just go ahead and send the response. Something went wrong, failed to fetch the product. I think failed to fetch the product would be nice. Failed to fetch product. That would be good. There we go. Told you it's really, really nice. No big deal there. No such dramas. All right, so I guess this is it. This is the business logic for the product. Told you, business logic on the product is not good. Just remember what you want to do. I want my admins to be able to upload the image. I want anybody to be able to get the image. I want that if you hit a particular route, products / whatever the ID, I want you to just get the information about it. Pretty standard approach. I think the product part is all done. Looks okay to me. All right, let's move on to the payment gateway integration part. We have the Imagekit in place. We have the products being placed. Now, the only part is to figure out or write the APIs so that we can handle the payments. And I know a lot of people are afraid of payment gateways. It's not like that it is very complex to work on with. It's just people are afraid with the word payments itself. And especially when you work with Razorpay, which is a really famous payment gateway in India, it is super easy to work on with. I will walk you with the flow. I will walk you through with the documentation as well, that how to understand the flow directly through the documentation. And yes, after watching this video, you'll see, yeah, it was okay. It was not that bad. And everything was given to me already by the Razorpay. I'm just implementing it. That's the whole case. So let me share the screen with you. And let's go ahead directly into the Razorpay. By the way, this is how our code base looks like. Our auth is ready. Our Imagekit is all ready. Our products is all ready. Now we need to figure out a way to prepare the orders. So I would love to create that first. Let's create a new folder. Let's call this one as order or orders. Orders would be good. And we will have the same thing. We will have the orders for regular. So if you want to place an order, this is where I will use the route.ts. And by the way, these are the things you write in the documentation. Okay, this is what I'm expecting from a route to be able to do. Now, inside this orders, I would also write a simple new folder, and that will be my users or user. Yeah, user would be good. So once somebody hits orders / user, that means somebody wants to try to grab how many orders I have placed. So inside this, we are going to go ahead and create route.ts. There we go. Let's talk one by one. First of all, we are in the just orders. So I want to place an order. I want to put a post request. Hey, deduct my money. How can I do that? So for this, obviously, we are integrating Razorpay for this. We will be installing the Razorpay in just a minute. No need to worry. I want to see that, hey, how the payment gateway integration works like. So they have a lot of products, Magic Checkout and Invoice and whatnot. I'm interested in integrating their payment gateway. Don't want to watch the video as of now because I'm already watching a video telling you for. Just click on read me or read more. And they actually walk you through that how the payment gateway flow works. Need a payment gateway? Use other Razorpay product? No, we are on the yes path. Do you want to customize your checkout UI? I think, yeah, you can check it out using the Razorpay in itself, dashboard. And this is the flow, really not that big. Okay, let's see how we can work with that. I am into Node.js, so I'll click on Node.js because Next.js, Node.js, yeah, behind the scene it works. So I'll click on this. And this is where I get. So installation, npm install Razorpay. I anyways need to do this. So I'll just copy this and we'll install it. And let's go ahead and grab npm install Razorpay. Let's go ahead and grab it. Should be all good, all nice. Now I have payment gateway, I have API sample code, and I have other Razorpay product. I definitely would love to check out the API sample code. This is where you will find a really good thing by the Razorpay. So Razorpay, whatever all is possible with the Razorpay, they gives you all the markdown syntax. For example, I want to see how can I create an order. So I just click on order.md, and this is the code that I all need to understand. And look at this. Instance you will get from the Razorpay. I will walk you through with that. So after that, you simply say .orders.create. This is a method in which you pass on an object. You need to provide the amount. You need to provide the currency. If you'll read the docs, you'll realize that this is actually 500 rupees, not 50,000. So basically, whenever you use any kind of payment gateway, they always say that amount needs to come in the minimum possible currency. In our case, it comes in paise. In case of US, it comes in cents, so you go for that. Receipts, of course, this needs to be handled by you. That receipt order needs to be keep on increasing. Partial payment, no, it's not a partial payment. And then you can keep on adding notes, as many notes as you wish. It's a key value pair, so name and description, whatever you want to go. And that's it. And they actually go ahead and work with this. So that's it. And this is how the response or kind of a response you are going to go ahead and grab. So we don't need to read much. And all of this is actually available here. In the case of Razorpay, only orders and create order is the one that you have to worry on. But in case you want to go for refunds, for QR code, subscription, tokens, you can go ahead and read them. It's super easy to work on with. Apart from this, now if I go ahead and say, hey, I want to learn the payment gateway integration. So let's just say payment gateway. They actually literally give you the whole code snippets and whole thing. So initiate Razorpay. All right, what does that mean? Initiate Razorpay simply means I'm going to create instance. Saw that in the Markdown MD? Yep, that's same. Razorpay, give him the ID and secret, and that's it. You will be able to create an instance. That's it. After that, what do we have to do? These are promises, how does it looks like and all of that. We have already studied that, so we don't need to do that. Only important part for us here is instantiate the Razorpay instance. All right, did that. Create an order in the server. Of course, you are grabbing the payment. So if you do all of the things on the front end, somebody might change the price from 5,000 to 5 rupees and can pay for that. So we need to create an order from the server itself. And we saw the APIs. This is one, order.create. That's it. You create that. And once you're creating that, they actually give you the sample code for it as well. So this is the sample code. We just studied that. Instance, Razorpay, the amount and option. And after that, instance.order.create. That's it. And it gives you a callback in which you can actually grab the order. In order to see that how the order actually looks like, I can just see this. Yeah, this is the response I'm expecting. Whatever I need to grab from this big object, I can just grab it and store in my database. Yeah, that's simple. And why are people worried? I don't know. So this is this, and then we have the request params, response params, errors, and all of that. Now add checkout option. This is all good. This is the front end. So Razorpay also gives you the front end UI. This is the URL that you have to hit. Checkout razorpay.com v1 checkout, and they will also give you an API key, which is public key. You can just place it in the front end, no problem there. Don't put your secrets in the public. Public API keys are meant to be gone in the public. This will help you to get the Razorpay pop-up, which you always see, and work with that. Now, once we are here, there is one more thing that you have to worry. This is the payment verify signature. Yep, this is the part. So what Razorpay actually says and gives you the option is something like this, that this is your backend. So let's go ahead and do the diagrams. This is your backend, and this is your Razorpay, and this is our Razorpay. So what Razorpay says that, hey, whenever you need to do work like this, go ahead and create an order and send this order to me. I says, okay, I will go ahead and create an order and we'll get this way. Now, by the time you're creating this order, you should always go ahead and keep your order status as pending. You should never mark this that if you have sent the request to Razorpay and got the response, that means it is 100% that we have deducted the payment. Because sometimes banks takes a little time, their networks and their traffic takes time to actually grab the payment. That's why Razorpay recommend that you keep this as a pending status. Razorpay says that I will send you a hook or a webhook, and through that webhook, I will update you the status. So webhook. So a webhook will be triggered and I will send you some of the information. And when you receive this webhook, I will give you more information about that particular order ID, and you can match it through the order ID in your database as well. And at that point, you go ahead and change the status from pending to captured or success or whatever you want to do. This is the point how Razorpay works. And this is exactly, they have actually gone ahead and verify the payment status, verify the signature. They give you all the details, how to verify the signature. You have to verify it by doing an HMAC SHA 256 key of order ID plus a pipe sign plus Razorpay payment ID and comma as a secret. And if this generated signature matches the Razorpay signature, which they will send you as a webhook, then only say that, okay, this is all good. So really secure, really awesome way. And yes, I can say that this sometimes looks a little bit overwhelming, not like a lot of overwhelming. So we're going to do it one by one. We'll start working with that and let's go ahead and see this. Once you see this implementation, you will be all okay. After that, you will never be worried about this. So I will go ahead and work on with this route.ts. So this is in my orders. So this is directly an order one. The step one for doing this is to create a Razorpay object with the keys and IDs. I haven't placed the keys and ID yet, but I'll show you that in a minute. So first of all, let's just say that I have a Razorpay, and this Razorpay is going to be created by new Razorpay. Nice, imported that. And once you have this, you have to grab the key ID and the secret. Now, I don't have this key ID yet. I don't even have this, so I need to grab this from somewhat. And why are you having the issue? The string is undefined or unassignable. Shouldn't be that the case. Why are you having issues? Oh, I get it. You are having issue because of the TypeScript. So I'll just go ahead and say, yep, should be all happy. This also is going to require this one so that it's all happy. So we have now the Razorpay instance being available to us and we can start writing on it. Of course, as we need more stuff, we'll just keep on grabbing them. So that's the step one. Go ahead, go into your secrets files, go into Razorpay dashboard, grab the keys and all of that. Now, once we are here, we obviously want to make a post request just like this. So we'll just go like this and there we go. Now, of course, try catch is always the best friend we want to have. The step one is that if somebody is buying that, I want that he should be logged in. So we have to worry about that. And again, as I mentioned in the previous section, grab the session, validate the user. Super easy part. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is my session and that session will get server session. We need to grab get server session and we also need to grab the auth options just like this. Once I have this, I will verify that if I don't have session, I will return a response that, hey, response. There we go. So this seems okay. We have authenticated the user now. All right, so authentication part is all good. Now that I know that this guy is authenticated, now I would like to get the product ID as well as what variant he is buying. So just go ahead and grab that. So I can grab that from request.json. So let's just say if you have more data, go ahead and grab that. I will directly extract that. So this one is product ID and variant. You will send me that from request.json and request. That's good. Request.json. All right. Now, obviously, you can go ahead and verify that if there is no product ID variant. I'll leave that as a simple exercise for you. I'll just go ahead and connect to the database now. Await and connect to database. And there we go. I'm connected to database. And now I would love to create a Razorpay order. So I'll just write it here. Create Razorpay order. All right. So in order to create the Razorpay order, you can create the options in a separate object and inject it later on. I'll just go ahead and do it directly. Const order, and I'll just go ahead and work with that. Razorpay, create the order. So in order to create the order, we have to first get the variant price. Variant is a big object in our case. So I'll just go ahead and satisfy. There we go. First of all, let's say that object amount. And in our case, amount is not 500 like this. So we have variant dot price. Why don't we have the variant price? And I want to multiply it 100 for sure. Why is it having the issue? Argument type amount number is not assignable to order create. Yes, That's why I would love to wrap this up inside this. And I should be actually doing it like this, math.round. Oops. Too many suggestions. Math.round. And there we go. Should be all okay. Why is it having an issue? At this point, I'm really not sure that why is it giving me this error, because math.round is definitely going to give me a number and the amount data type is also a number. Probably I'm missing something here, but I am sure this is going to be, and this is the real world programming, folks. If you are getting frustrated here that why this is not going in a flow smooth tutorial, this is how you build products. Anyways, let's move ahead. I'm not sure why this is giving me the errors. And currency in our case is, oh, the error is gone now. USD. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, automatically. And receipt order, you should be getting that. So I'll not do it like this. I will actually go ahead. I shouldn't be using it like this, but this is a common hack that I've used in a lot of projects as well. So I'll just go ahead and say receipt. And as you can see, dash date.now, because I've used this in so many projects. So you can just go ahead and use the date as your notes. And I will also go ahead and use a note in which I'll just inject the product ID. And not only that, I would be making sure that this product ID is strings. So I'll just go ahead and say toString. And you can also go ahead and add variant type, add as much information as you like. In fact, in one of our production app, we actually use this for adding the description and the product name as well. It helps when you export the data from the Razorpay, you can add filters in your CSV. So go ahead and take this seriously. So this is our order. And now let's just go ahead and create a new order. And this is what is going to the Razorpay. I need to grab and create an order inside my database as well at this point. So let's just call this one as new order, and new order will be await, and we will be having order just like this. And we'll go ahead and create this, and there we go. Ah, nice. So we have the user ID that we are storing from the session.user.id. Nice. We have product ID. We have variant that we are storing. We are storing the Razorpay order ID. This will be useful for us later on. Whatever you send to the Razorpay, this gives you back the order ID. So if you check this one, this is the one that we are storing back. And at the time of webhook creation, we'll be using this exact same thing. All right. So this is what we are storing, and nice and good. We are storing the amount as well, mat.round, variant.price, seems good. Status is pending. This is where I was showing you that this is the most important part of it. Whenever a web request goes up, it needs to be always on the hold, on the pending status, should not be marked as captured as all done, because it is not at this point. Now this is it, told you, this is the only Razorpay part. This is our own business logic. So you were afraid of this, what, 5 lines? I don't know why. Okay, let's go ahead and finally return the next response. We have the new order. And in fact, we can actually return a lot more data than this, because probably you want to display all of this data in the front end side. So I'll just go ahead and work on this. So first of all, I'll just say order ID will be order.id. That's the first thing I would like to send on the front end. I would also like to get and send the amount as well. That amount I can go ahead and send the order.amount, because this time I am extracting all the information from this response. Notice here it has amount, amount paid, amount due date, currency, all of this data. So I'm extracting all of this data from this one here. So I'll just go ahead and say currency, which is order currency. I can send him the receipt as well. And I would also say database order ID as well, DB order ID. That will be the new order ID. Good enough. All right. And I can write return better. Return next response. Sounds okay. Now here, if anything goes wrong, so we'll just go ahead and say console.error, and we will have the error just like this, and return the next response. Something goes wrong. Told you. Super easy part, nothing to be worried, nothing to be afraid of. It's all super easy. That is all the Razorpay works. Now your task is to simply go ahead and grab the Razorpay key ID, Razorpay secret ID. Never expose this key secret ID anywhere except your backend. This key ID is not that much of importance. Surely you should keep it safe, but there are some keys ID which needs to go in the front end. So don't be afraid of that part as well. All right. Now, next up, we would like to move into user. Back again. So now we need to move into the user part. So in the user, we do have this route. Now, this has nothing to do majorly with the Razorpay. We are just listing all the orders that we are getting from the user itself. So hey, this needs to be done. This is a business logic part. So we'll just go ahead and say export async function. We'll call this function as get is good enough here. And we don't need any params in here. Okay, what do we want? We want to first of all hit the try catch. In the try catch, only the authenticated user should be able to see the data. So time to grab session. I'll just go ahead and say session and await session. Of course, the errors and oops, session and options. There we go. Once I have this, I need to validate this. If I have no session, I will return that you are unauthorized. I will remove the bugs just like this. There we go. Now, once we have this part, obviously the next step is to connect to the database, hit a record that, hey, go ahead and grab me the order based on the session.user.id. That's it. Let's go ahead and do that. First of all, let's connect to the database. There we go. Once I have this, I will just go ahead and say await, and I want to hit the order. And this order will find me all the orders that are placed by this user. So user ID will be session.user.id, and we'll just go ahead and use not lean this time, because why? I'll tell you. Because if I go into the orders and I check what am I storing, I am storing this user ID. I am storing, okay, where is this? Not here. Just give me a second. This is my schema. So I'm storing the user ID, which is a type of object ID. I'm storing the product ID as well, which will be a product object ID. So if I grab just this number, this will be a long string, which will be of no use at all. So from this object ID, I need to jump into the products and grab some details of the product as well. So I think it's time to do that. So let's go ahead and remove this. And now I would love to do a dot populate. And inside this populate, I can just go ahead and provide that how am I populating. So first of all, it requires a path, which will be product ID. And inside the product ID, I will select the options that I have. So this is my product ID, and I will just go ahead and mention all the select. And this is where it bothers me a little bit, that you have to place all the strings space separated, not comma separated. So name field I'm grabbing, image URL I'm grabbing, that these are the order that you have placed. And also let's give it some of the options. And I will say it like this, and the only option, and where it is, strict query, no, I will say strict populate that I'm looking up for. Strict populate, yep. Strict populate false. What it will does, it will return null if the no product was found instead of throwing the error. So that's the only thing. And again, you can go ahead and read it. I have discussed this in my other videos as well. Now, once I have this product, I think then we can just add a couple of more methods. Like I can just go ahead and add a sort. I would say created, and then we can just go ahead and use lean. That's it. No, we don't need to use execute on that. Let's store this into a variable, const orders. There we go. All right, so orders are being stored. Now we can validate the orders as well, and we can provide all these details. Let's validate as well. Otherwise, you can send this response as well. No problem there. I'll just return the response just like this. We'll do the validation later on if we wish to. And in the error part, console.error, just like this, and we will return response just like this. So there we go. Again, this is a part of business logic that we are working on, and that's it. All right, now comes again the Razorpay part, jumping onto this. So this is the order that we have created, and we studied in the docs that you have to actually go ahead and set up a webhook. Now, in order to set up the webhook, you need to go into Razorpay admin dashboard, find the settings, and there's a whole list of all the checkbox there where you want to do. Basically, what happens is in the world of Razorpay, they will give you all the events on which you want to listen for. For example, there is an event for create order, and then there is an event for refund. There is an event for failure. There are lots of events that you can listen for that. And against each of these orders, they give you just a checkbox. So you have to just turn on this checkbox. Now, as soon as this checkbox is being turned on, Razorpay, you have to set a URL there as well, and that URL will create. So for example, if that URL is whatever your example.com/API/webhook, first of all, it should not be behind authentication. It should be all okay. You have to place this webhook inside the settings of the Razorpay. Once you have done this, then they will notify you for all the events that you have checked mark for this. And it's your job of your webhook to actually receive those events and act according to those. How do you create these webhooks? This is where they mention that if you want to verify any of the product, so partner authentication, all these. So this is where you have to go ahead and study that. So first off, most important part is payment validation and the signature validation. I have written this many times, so I'll just directly walk you through with this. So now we'll close this order, and I think this is the last part that we are building up in the backend part, and we'll call this one as webhook. And webhook or webhooks, webhook is okay. I may write in future other webhook as well, so I'll just go ahead and say Razorpay. And again, in the Razorpay itself, sometimes we write more webhooks, so organize it however you like. Route.ts. Now, first thing that you have to do is go into your middleware TS and make sure all of your webhooks and all these things are okay. So anything which starts with API/webhook, and we should actually change this, otherwise it will never. Okay, this is webhook, not hooks. So anything that goes with the webhooks, we are returning true. That means this endpoint is allowed to be served without authentication. That's the most important part. And at this point, you can inject the node mailer and whatnot, whatever you want to go ahead and wish to use. I will go ahead and use export async function. This will be a simple post request. Yes, webhook actually comes up in the post request. Study the docs for it, but that's okay. I will go ahead and say request, and that request will be of type next request. There we go. Now again, try catch. The step one is first of all to wait for a text request. Now webhook comes in a variety of different formats, and each company which uses these Razorpay hooks or any other hooks, they actually tell you how to actually grab or receive these signatures and hooks. The step one is to grab the body. So we'll just go ahead and say const body, and this time we'll receive a text request in case of Razorpay. The next part is signature. Now, whenever a request comes up, the request takes with the signature. So custom headers are there. So in case of Razorpay, we just go ahead and say request dot headers. We will get the dot get, and the headers that we are looking up for is this X Razorpay, not the notification secret, X Razorpay signature. Yeah, that's the one. Let's store that into signature, const signature. There we go. All right, so now that we have the body as a text and the signature as well, we have to design the expected signature. And if I go up here, notice here, these are generated signature. That is on my side. I am generating this, and this should match with the Razorpay signature. And this is being designed by order ID with the slash sign, and then we have to go with that. So it's not really that much of a difficult process, and especially Razorpay allows you to do that much easier. So const expected signature, just like that. Now we have expected signature. We will be using the crypto, and this crypto will be dot create HMAC with the SHA-256. We will have the Razorpay.env webhook secret. Yes, this is what we inject in the settings of the Razorpay. And then we just go ahead and say update with the body. And then finally, we use the digest of the hex. All right. And why are we having the issue with this one? Create HMAC doesn't exist on crypto. It should be. And import crypto from crypto should be okay now. All right, so this first part is all done. Now we have to just match the signature with the expected signature. And again, there are a lot of ways how to grab this. So if signature is not matching the signature, we can return a response that, hey, invalid signature. That's good. Next response, invalid signature. Now, if everything goes good, then we can just grab the things from just like this. So let's just say that, hey, we will create an event, and this event will say json.parse body. So this event is created. The next step is await to connect to database. Now, after this, what comes up is just the business logic that, hey, the thing that why we are creating this event from this body is because, as I mentioned, when we go here, Razorpay actually notify you for multiple of these events: create order, refund, failure. I don't know what event it is sending. This one I'm doing it because, hey, I need to know that, hey, this request is coming up from the Razorpay itself, not from anybody. So this is the validation for that. Okay, the proper third party is contacting to me, not anybody else. So this is invalid signature for that. Now, once I'm done and I have this event and I'm connecting to the database, basically that's a connection to database, but this is the event I want to go for. Now, for each of the event, I want to notify that, hey, whether this event is payment captured, whether that's a refund and all of that. So I have to verify that. So if the event event.event equals to payment captured, again, Razorpay gives you all of this that, hey, what event we are looking up for. If the payment is being captured, then I would go ahead and do more of the stuff. So for example, I can just go ahead and say, hey, payment. And that payment actually goes ahead and say from the event dot payload dot payment dot entity. So this basically gives me, go ahead and console log this. So basically what it does, every event that you are creating with the Razorpay will give you some kind of payload. Payload is nothing, it's just a text information that comes up to you. And once you do this, even this console log of this event, or you can study more in the docs of the Razorpay as well, you will figure out that a lot of information comes up from this. This is not just any ordinary verify payment status, subscribe to webhook events. So there we go. This is the part one, which we have done. And then we have the polls. Nope, not this one. Yeah, this is the one. So this is the part, although it's not really integrate with Razorpay. Hopefully they would payment capture and set up the webhooks. They should be giving me more of this docs because I studied it. This is what I was saying. So this is how the webhook, everything looks like. So this is the webhook panel. So this is the URL of your web page that you have created. Then you create the secret. You keep this secret with you. This is the alert email, and this is where you check mark. So payment authorized, payment capture, payment, all of this detail, you actually go ahead and send this. And this is how you test this webhook. So you can keep on adding as many webhooks as you wish. Once you're done with this, then go ahead and there's nothing much, but at least we got something out of it. Now, what we're going to do is, now this event payment captured was captured to us. The only job that we have to do is update the payment status from pending to completed. That's it. Now let's go ahead and do this. I will just go ahead and say const order, and that order will be await from the order of the model. And we are going to go ahead and find one and update. That's the one I'm looking for. Which one do I want to find and which one I want to do update? Now, the one that I want to find will be based on the Razorpay order ID. That's nice. And what I want to update in this is, I want to simply go ahead and say Razorpay payment ID is going to be the payment ID, and we will change the status to complete. We can definitely go ahead and use the download URLs and all of that. I'm not going to do that. I'll just keep it this much only. And once I've done this, I can use a little bit of a populate field as well here to get the response back because I'm actually holding this order. So maybe. So I'll just go ahead and say populate, and this populate can actually have an array. The first one being, how should I do this? First of all, the path that I'm looking up forward is the product ID, and the select a name is going to be just the name. And another one that we'll do is path for the user as well, user ID, and we'll select the name of the user as well. Here, I think we should select the email. Again, depends what do we want to select. All right, so if we are able to grab all of this, then let's go ahead and if we have the order, so here, if we have the order, let's go ahead and fire up an email as well. Now it's up to you. What do you want to do? Make it available in the user dashboard. You want to fire an email, just go ahead and I'll show you how to fire an email. So if that's the case, if we have the order, then go ahead and send the email. For sending the email, let's install the node mailer, npm install node mailer. And there we go at the top, import node mailer from node mailer, should be okay. Sending the mail is okay, and let me walk you through with the docs as well. Otherwise, some people will get confused because node mailer is one of the easiest mailer of all time. That's why everybody remembers. Notice here, npm install node mailer. Once you're done with this, and this is all you have to do. Node mailer.create transport. That's it. And you provide your all the details up here. And that's it. And then finally, once you're done with this, you simply say await transporter.send email. Remember, we are storing that into transporter. And as soon as the transporter gets a send email, you write the to, from, and all of that. And that's it. You send the email. So I told you, it's really the super simple email that anybody has worked on. So I'll just go ahead and say const. Usually I just copy paste this, but now that we have this one, transport email service, I'll not use the Gmail service. I'll show you another email service, which is actually much better for testing these kinds of things. So we have this mail trap, which is much better of a platform to test out these things. So this sends, and you can just go ahead and I'll log it into this. I do have an account on this one. Instead of doing any test email from your Gmail, you can just go ahead and yeah. So this is where we test the emails, and all you have to do is we want to start testing this. So let's just say this is the one. This is all the host details and everything I have to work. Copy this, and instead of the Gmail, I'll just paste this. So this is my SMTP service, and the port is going to be 255, auth user, and then we also have the password, and that's it. It knows suggestion, but here we have to grab the username from here, password, you grab it from here. So go ahead and grab the user like this, password, go ahead and use your password. Better option would be to add these to env file. I will do that for sure once we are done with this. So this is the part where we create a transporter, and then after that we simply go ahead and simply say await transporter.send email from email to order user ID email. We have to subject order complete. And we will also go ahead and instead of this HTML, we'll use the text. And just like this, and we'll say order has been successfully placed, just like this. So this will send the email. Super easy, nice to work on with this. I will definitely go ahead and write better email than this. And I will say from your @example.com. All right. So we have sent the email to user as well that, hey, everything was good, all okay, you were able to purchase and everything. And this is all we are doing for just one event. And once this event is captured and everything is done, let's return the response, message success, status just like this. That's it. In case of error, we'll just go ahead and say console.log error and we'll send the response. That's it. Told you, it's super easy. Now, whenever you want to capture or any other event, just notify the event, event.event. Either it is payment captured, payment failure, whatever that is. Told you, it's super easy and super simple to work on with Razorpay. Now let's see where we are receiving the errors. It says cannot find node mailer. Why are you not finding the node mailer? Text stream consumer. No, this is not the text. All right, should be all okay. Let's reload this. And yep. Node Mailer. I did install Node Mailer. Let's check into package.json. Node Mailer. This will happen to you as well. That's why I'm not removing this part. Copy. And we'll say npm install node mailer. Oh, node mailer. Node mailer. Node mailer. Let me check this, why this is having an issue. Node mailer. Still having an issue. Let's just see. Node mailer is declared, but its value is never read. Yeah, because I made a typo, but no big deal. We can fix this. And here it is, node mailer, and should be okay. Could not declare the file node mailer. Oh, we forgot to install the types of it. You need to see this part as well. And now we have installed the types of the node mailer. And probably we need to reload the project. And are you okay now? Finally? All right. Seems like this is okay. And we found a typo in itself. That's the advantage of having the types. All right, looks good. And again, these smaller things which I don't edit it out, this is what makes a real development video, that yes, you will face these errors. And now I think you understand the part of capturing the webhooks, capturing the Razorpay, and the whole thing. And basically this whole thing is reusable apart from business logic, because if you look at the Razorpay portion of it, these two lines, definitely Razorpay portion. And from line number 12 to line number 18, Razorpay portion. And after that, this line, obviously we are capturing the event. So this if block is definitely Razorpay portion, rest of all is not. So I think now you have grabbed and we have successfully completed all the backend part, that, okay, how this, now it's time to just assemble the application. We have worked on auth separately. We have worked on Imagekit separately. We have worked on Razorpay separately. We have worked on business logic, the products separately. Now it's time just to bring all in together and start fixing the application, and hey, just go ahead and work on with this. So let's catch up in the next video. All right, so this probably is going to be the final part of our application where I'll walk you through that how we can professionally add the front end, because we need to make a lot of calls to our backend. I'll also give you a brief, very quick, fast overview, because taking an overview of application always makes your foundation strong, although some people find it boring, but this is how you learn. So let me walk you through, and then we're going to see that how we can actually do a flow-wise tutorial of that. So let me first share the screen. Let's quickly do a small overview of it. I know it's boring, but we're going to anyways do it. So we set up our application. We first of all defined all of our models. Pretty quick, users, product, and orders. And I'm pretty sure you are very confident about building the models. They are always just like this interface. And then this is basically the code which is useful and which does this. We also have encrypted our password and stuff. Exported that. If it's not already created, just create that and export that. If it is already created, just take that and export it. That's all we are doing repetitively in the models. After that, we created a database connection, although this can go really, really in depth, but I have kept it decently okay in this one. And we have connected the database with a spelling mistake, which we have done a lot. And I'm pretty sure you can actually go ahead and fix this. So this is the all part. Then we talked about authentication part. So in the authentication part, that's the first thing that we did, which is auth. We are using the NextAuth. So the step one of doing that is this auth options. We talked about it. We had a diagram explaining this, that how the authentication works. We've gone through with all of this, and always NextAuth always and always works like that. So we created these all options, which now seems much easier as you are seeing and revising them back. And apart from this, we worked on registration, which is nothing else. This is like a to-do application. We create a user, encrypt the password, save it in the database. That's all the registration process is. All right. Once our auth was done, then we moved into Imagekit. We wanted to work with the Imagekit. So the step one was how do we get authenticated in itself? So that's why we call it as Imagekit. If I'm sending the image or getting the image, it needs to know that, hey, I'm a legit user. I have the private key and passwords and all of that. In the world of APIs, we don't call it as ID password. We call it as secret key and private key and all of that. So we got the authentication parameters, and then this needs to go into the provider as they mentioned in the docs. We never cooked it up on our own. They actually says that, hey, once you're doing this, install this and then go ahead and create this stuff. We did that. We also know what's coming back as a response. And this needs to go up here as a wrapper. So this is Imagekit provider. This is exactly what we did and built up. So if I go ahead and show you the components and providers, this is where we have this whole thing exactly copy pasted from there. Minor tweaks and things like the API request where we are getting all of that. This is being changed. So this is our session provider. We have the Imagekit provider just like this. Session provider, obviously that's coming up from the auth. And I have also added a notification provider. This is one of my code, which is always there with me. I haven't showed you we have built that because I don't build it in any project. I have just it placed in my code snippet. It's just a way of sending the notification. There are other notification libraries as well you can use, but I think this is a very small thing to do. So I always keep it. I'll ship it still this in this code base as well. As you can see, this is just like less than 70 lines and it does the notification. All the pop-ups needs to come from any place. It does the job. So I always keep it up there. And all we have to do in the provider is session for authentication, Imagekit for whenever the image is being used, and that's it. This is all we did so far. And after that, we did some business logic with orders using the Razorpay, some of the products. So all of these things are done. All right, happy with this. Now, what I will show you is let's close the API. Now it comes the interesting part is first of all, let's open up the layout. Now, why we are opening up this layout? There's a lot going on in this one. We don't need this font and all these things, although let's just keep it there. I'm not worried about the fonts and the CSS as of now. The most important part is I showed you that some of the scripts needs to load up from the Razorpay itself. This is where whenever you click the buy now button, wherever that happens, the scripts load the Razorpay interface and shows you that pop-up. How we do it is we're going to wrap this up in layout so that that script is available on all the components. So once I'm inside the body, the step one is to load the script, and way how you do it is through the Next.js. So there is a script in the Next.js. Notice this at the top, the script from the Next.js. This is how you load or can load any of the script. This requires that you go ahead and give it a src. In our case, the src that we have is the Razorpay one. So https:// I hope it will suggest me. Checkout, yeah, this is the exact one, checkout.razorpay.com. We are still on the v1 checkout.js. You can find out for that. And then you can also define the strategy for it before interactive. That's the common one. But in our case, somebody's not going to come in and buy immediately. It needs to see the web page and all these data. So we're going to get the lazy onload strategy. And we are going to go ahead and close this. And we're going to move this, oops, not like that. This like this. So all right, or in fact we don't need to do all of this. We can just call it a self-closing one. That's fine. All right, so this part is all done. The script is being loaded. Now as soon as you have this children, you need to wrap these children with all the providers. So let's go ahead and grab the providers, just like that. And once we have the providers, are we not getting providers from there? Providers. It's coming up nicely, but why is it having issue? Children is missing. Of course, I get that. There we go. Should be all happy now. So we have providers. In case you want to have, you can actually wrap the sub children in some kind of a main, which I have done in this application. I have actually gone through with this. There are some additional classes that eventually I'll do. So no big deal there. Classes and all these things, we are not worried much. All right. So this part is okay and good. Now comes up the interesting part where we need to learn the scaling of the application. So notice this, we have the page. And if I just go ahead and remove everything from this page and I go ahead and RFCE, React Functional Export component, and we can have this one as export default function instead of the page. Let's call this one as home. This doesn't need to be like this. Probably we can just go ahead and say use client. There we go. Now we have this page. I will come back onto this page, like what goes in this page doesn't really matter. The most important part is I need to have some products on my home page. How can I do this? As soon as the product loads, I need to fire some API calls and get those products. How do you do that actually? Pretty simple actually. Before you return the stuff, you can define a state. So let's go ahead and have a products. So const products, and that will be suggestions, product states. This is an empty array. Additionally, what I can do is make this state as, hey, what kind of data will be coming up? So I will just say I product, no suggestions, I product array. It's supposed to load this up product like this as a suggestion. Yeah, there we go. So I have this product and this will be an array just like this. And right now I'll just say, why are you having issue? Can't find the use state. Should be auto loading that. Use state. All right. Now the next thing is I need to fire a request. So use effect is the hook that we are going to use in this case. So here we go, use effect, and there we go. So this is the basic call that, hey, let's go ahead and make a fetch request to the API/products. Then we receive it, set the products as data. This is okay. This is good. And in fact, additionally, what you can do if you want to do it a little bit more, we can go ahead and say, hey, I would love to use an async here. I'd love to use that. Why are you having an issue? It says argument promised is not assignable. I'm not doing any promise. I'll just remove this. And I will just go ahead and say, oh, my bad. This is not async. I will write a method like that. So const, and we're going to call this one as fetch products. I will go ahead like this. Await, then I don't think so. We need to connect to database in this case. No, we don't need to. We can just make a fetch request to the API clients and that's it. We don't need to do that. So let's go ahead and do a try catch here, fetch products. And this is the point where we have, let's just say a data and this one. Yeah, this is the one. Now, how many times you're going to do these things? Await, fetch, and all of this. And how many times you're going to go ahead and keep on remembering that, hey, this works like that. Surely we can do that. That's one way of doing the things. But I propose a better solution than this, which you are going to see quite a lot. Whenever there is some things like you need to make a web request, which you'll be doing many times, you can actually transform this into methods. Yes, this is a common practice being done. So I'll just right click on the lib, create a new file here, and this will be my file responsible for sending all of the web requests. So api-client.ts. And basically what I will do is I'll create a class for this. And so next up, what we're going to do is design this API client in itself. And let me walk you through the strategy that we are following. So the whole idea is I want to create a fetch method, which is a generic fetch method. And I know that what headers to pass on it every single time. I know how to get the response back. The response might be different, but ultimately it's just a promise that says getting it and we're getting it back. So we'll define a method with different endpoints and you just say get product or get product with ID. And it just does the job. So that's the whole goal. I'll create a couple of interfaces later on. The first interface that I'll create here is, now this is a very TypeScript specific. You don't have to worry on that if you are on JavaScript. The first one is fetch options. So there are only limited fetch options that are available for us, especially in this case. So let's just call this one as fetch options and I'll just create them one by one. So first one is methods. I know I don't want to support every single kind of method. So I'll just go ahead and say, hey, I want to support get. I want to support post, put, and delete. These are the methods. Again, optional. I want to support that. I will also receive a body that can be of any type. I am not very restrictive on the body type yet because it literally can be anything. But for the headers, I am not going to use any because I know whenever the headers are coming up, they are of data type of records. And if you see the TypeScript, yeah, this is very TypeScript heavy. So this is record, which has the key and type. Basically, you can have any data type as a key, any data type as the value. So this is basically a dictionary, a key value type. So I'll just go ahead and say I want to use a record. And that record is going to be type string as string. And basically that's it. That is my fetch options that I have. Once I have this fetch option, I'll go ahead and create a class, which is going to be simply API client, just like that. There we go. Now, the first point is declare a generic fetch method, which I can control. And in order to do so, I'll just go ahead and create private so nobody can access it. And I'll say async. And this one is going to be simply a fetch method. But this is not a regular fetch method. This is something that I am controlling. Now in this fetch method, I will decide that, hey, what kind of data can come up into this method. First of all, there will be endpoint. Hey, what endpoint to hit? Where do I need to send this request? This will be controlled by this. Obviously, the data type is a string for this one, comma. And another thing that will come is the option. Options. Yeah, that would be good. Options will be of type options just like this. There we go. Fetch options, which will be empty one by default. Otherwise, if you give me some of the fetch options, that's great. Otherwise, that's empty. Now, once we have this, I would also like to see that, hey, what kind of data type I am returning back with this fetch method. Obviously, whenever you're making a fetch, that's a promise that we are going through. So this will be a promise. And instead of writing anything, we will just write a T, which is for a template. Anything can come up into this one. And once I'm inside this, I haven't yet returned any type here. I will do that in a second, but it just means a generic. The step one is I would like to create the options inside this method. So I'll just go ahead and say, hey, let's just go ahead and say options. And how do we create these options? We basically extract the things. So methods or method is going to be equal to get. And then we have the body, and we'll also have the headers. Headers, which are by default all empty. So there we go. These are all the options that we have. And why are you having an issue? Const method. All right, let's see. All destructure element are unused. Method does not exist on fetch option. Yeah, that's okay. I'm not actually using the methods here. It should be method. That's why I like TypeScript. All right, so I have extracted all the method. Now let me also create a default header because I know this header will be injected. If you are passing me up any header, that's great. Otherwise, let me go ahead and create a default headers. Content type is application JSON, but also I will destructure all the headers. All right, that part is also done. Now, whatever the endpoint you are sending me, I have to make a fetch request there and then give you a response back. So const response, that will be await, and we are going to make fetch at endpoint and all the methods just like that. So we have the method, we have the headers as default headers, we have body as JSON stringify body. That's okay. We can actually make it a little bit better. If we don't have a body, we can conditionally check it. If it is not there, we can mark it as undefined, but I'll leave this as it is. Now we can conditionally can check that if there is no response.ok, then we can go ahead and throw the error and just close it off like this. And if it is not, then we can just go ahead and return the response. Now this method is all done. It's all cooked. And I think that's okay. That's good. Now, why are you having an issue? Can't find the promise of type T. So we have to actually provide it like that. Let me check this. All right, fixed it. Took a little time. The fetch also needs to have the same data type. Again, TypeScript stuff. Anyways, so we have got this now generic response template, and the method is all good. Now the work is all done. This was only the difficult part which needs to be done. After this is all easy. So let me show you what power actually it gives you. So let's just say we have a sink and we call this one as get products. So you want to grab all the products. So in this product, you don't have to do anything. You can just literally go ahead and work like this. And all this is going to do is return. Make sure to use this because we need to pass on this context and this dot fetch. And you can literally go ahead and say API products, and this will return you all the things back. Additionally, what you can do in this fetch, if you want to be really in control and in the TypeScript control, you can go ahead and say I product, and you can define the models like this, and you can mention that, hey, this is going to be an array of this. That's it. That is all. Now, if you want to grab a single product, you can go ahead and say, hey, I will async, and I will say get product. And this time to use this method, you will give me the ID as a string. And once you give it to me, then all I can do is simply this return this dot fetch, and we can return the individual product with the ID just like this. And that's it. That is all you have to do. So make sure you define it however you are going, and we can just make a web request. This is much of an easier. I will show you how you can do that and use that as well. The advantage this gives me is now that at least I have these two methods, and obviously at the very end of it, go ahead and export this as a single instance. So we'll just say export const API client, new API client. So we have created an object, and all we are doing is exporting this API client so that I can use it wherever I like, and I can go back into pages, and this will make my life easier at every single place. Now, instead of doing this, I would love to do that. Hey, let's just not do any fetch or anything. Our data will go await like this, but no fetch. We have just one singleton instance, and I can just go ahead and keep on using it. The way how I do it is API client, import that, and now I will say get products. There we go, just like this. And the method is available. Then I can go ahead and say set products, and I can just go ahead and have the data in it. And in the console log, we can just console log this. Console.log, and we can console log the error. Surely you can do better. Now, once this is all done, now I will just go ahead and call this one. So I'll just go ahead and say fetch products just like this. So this actually gets called. We have no dependency array. And now here I can just go ahead and have a component which actually loops through it and displays the array. That's not a big deal. I will walk you through in a minute about that. But I wanted to show you that how the API clients are being designed. This one we have designed for get product. This one we have designed for the individual product. But now I'll just go ahead and grab all the class that I have designed. All right, so I have just brought in the API client that we have. So this is our API client. I have added more data. So for example, if you want to create the product, I have to do nothing. I just have to hit the slash products, which anyways, I'm going to do that. The only thing is just give me the product data and I'll be able to do that. Advantage of this, as we have seen, now we can have this product and everything. And I have since created another component with, I pasted it basically all being designed in V0 itself. We have the image gallery now, and in the image gallery, all it requires is give me all the products and I'll take care of all the things. So literally I can just go ahead and hit, I'll just go ahead and wrap it up like this. And I'll just come back here. And now inside this, I can load up a component, which is image gallery like this. And I can just pass on all the products, and that's it. It will loop through all the products, we'll go through with that. And by the way, if you want to see the image gallery code, it's a simple product, which I have created another product card. The card is not designed by us. It's being taken as it is. And what we're doing is products.map. Each product goes through with the product ID key, and we just simply get it, the product. If you want to see that how and what is happening to our product, that is a product card. You can grab any bootstrap card or anything. We are basically having the product ID in the link, and then we have the images. We are using the Imagekit component given to us by, of course, our lovely and beautiful Imagekit IO, because that's the component which is recommended by them whenever you want to display the image. It actually does behind the scene a lot of optimization of it. So we have used this Imagekit, path, alt path, and loading transformation and all of that. Now let me go ahead and grab the rest of the components as well, and I will walk you through with the detailings of it. All right, so rest of all the things that I'm going to show you, demonstrate here are just, we are building the components using V0s, and we are bringing them back up, and we are just adding some basic tiny React part in it. For example, I created a new folder admin here, added a page, and added some classes here. And we are loading up this admin product form. So there's a new component here which says admin product form, and this is where we are bringing in the admin. So it looks like really a huge, but it's not really. This is the form, and we are using React hook form in which all the things we wanted to grab from the user when they want to have an image being uploaded. That's what we are using. We are using the file upload component, where we spend a lot of time, and we are just looping through that how many variants or size that you want to grab. All the sizes that you are grabbing are just the variants, and the backend actually handles that. So we have all the deals and values up here. No big deal. This is just the front end part. And again, you will have the source code access to go ahead and study about it, understand and learn about it. Similarly, we have now a new page, which is orders page. And if you go look at the page, again, same thing. We are loading the images from Imagekit. We are loading all the sessions and stuff. fetching all the orders data from here, and then however you want to display, you can display that. If table suits you, add it into table. If a div suit you, go ahead and add the div. This is all what you have to do. This is the front end part, and notice here order.map is just a loop. It's just a loop of the divs. In your case, it might be a loop in the tables row. Any components can work with that. So basically this is it. And now obviously we need to build more pages, which I'll give you, and you can use that as an exercise for you as well to work with it, and just keep on using V0 or something to build better UI than what we have built. But yes, rest assured, all the source code will be available to you. But I highly recommend, if you've reached this point, as I previously mentioned, this tutorial is meant for some of the developers who have already done and built the stuff. They will love it, and there are some exercises now that you can go ahead and have the rest of the components being built on you. If you don't want to build it, the repository will also be available in my GitHub, so go ahead and check this out. So this is a really, really long project, and super happy with that, how the project came up, and whole project is available to you. Just add the environment variables and keys, and you will be able to run the project. You'll be able to modify the project. Entire thing and source code is available to you. Go ahead, sell your own things, build your own e-commerce onto it, sell images, books, whatever you want to wish, and check out more options or more features that you can build. And I'm pretty sure you can add this project as a show off in your portfolio. This is a fairly complex, production ready, and great project to have it. So that is it for this video, and I hope you have enjoyed it, and let's catch up in another such video.